Hello, everyone, and welcome to our dual stream with Trial TV Live and Joe Schmo. We are continuing our behind the scenes, boots on the ground coverage of day 7 of Arizona versus Lori Daybell. I am very excited. I am the squeegee of justice. I'm here dual streaming with Joe Schmo. Joe, you want to introduce yourself to our lovely chat?
Hello, everybody. Good to see you. It was an amazing day in court, so we have a lot to talk about, do we not?
We have a lot to talk about, a lot to cover. However, before we do, I just want to give a quick shout out to a few people. Sinead, it looks like you were first. Nan R, Butterfly Dana, Jen Joe, Lily Wayne. Dwayne is in our chat as well. Baka, good to see you. Therapist, you know. Green Eye Cat saying, hey there, Joe and Squeegee. Therapist, you know. Akasha, thank you for joining us. Indy, Cindy, love seeing you. Mike Morrow, you guys are great. Jamie, oh, look at that. Who's this Joe Schmo guy? Hikaru saying hello. Irish Amy. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll let chat get settled in. Kathy Davis. Seeking Justice. If I missed Pammy. Pammy, are you straddling both streams again? I love that, Pammy.
She's straddling both streams. That sounds like a euphemism.
Christy G. Justice Kikru, everybody's yarn work. Thank you guys for coming in. Grab a seat. We have lots to talk about. Joe, I'll throw it over to you while our chat gets settled in. Where do you want to start with today?
Well, while they're getting settled in, we might as well give the background to before the trial session started today. I got there about 6:30 this morning, more or less, plus or minus a couple of minutes, and there were 4 people in line in front of me, so I was 5th, which is perfectly fine. That was a good seat, except so they changed up the seating arrangements today, and they went to great trouble to do it. Like they printed up a sign, which they haven't done, which is really funny because of how we find out how the session ended today. But they went to all this trouble overnight to print up these signs that said, okay, the public line starts here, and this is row 1, this is row 2, this is row 3, this is row 4. But they moved us from one end of the courtroom or one end of the court holding area to the opposite end of the court holding area. And there are 4 rows of 10, so 40 seats for the public to sit down and just hang out until the trial starts. Like once you get in, go up and get in your seat in your order and hang out so if the doors open at 7:30. So if you get up there at 7:35, get through security, get up there at 7:35, you're hanging out for almost 3 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes. So It was nice to have more seats for the public. Mm-hmm. But those are in front of 2 completely other courtrooms run by other judges that have nothing to do with this trial or the third one that's opposite from the main courtroom, 5D. So after about an hour of sitting there, security comes back over and they say, the judge that's in this courtroom right here behind you guys, he's getting ready to have a trial. And I thought they were, because some detectives came up wearing their badges and their sidearms. And I'm like, these guys are going to be witnesses in a trial. I know they are. Right. And not our trial, not Lori's trial. So they're like, we're going to go back to the plan we had before, and we're going to go over, and the public's going to get 2 rows, which is 20 seats, and all other 25 people are going to have to stand up for that 2.5 hours, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So we moved all the way back over to where we have been the rest of the time. And it's just more circus stuff. But
right now, yesterday you were talking about after every break you would lose your seat. Basically, they would clear you out. Did that happen again today?
So only at lunch.
Okay.
So court starts at 10:30 and goes until noon, which is an hour-and-a-half session, and you lose your seat after that, which is absolutely asinine.
Yeah.
But then for the afternoon session was at 3:00, which is at 3:00. So you get back from lunch either at 1:15 or 1:30, depending on whatever the judge thinks is appropriate. Mm-hmm. Today it was 1:30. You take a stretch break at 3:00. You get your seat back. That makes no sense to me. The first hour and a half, you can completely lose your seat for the rest of the day. And there were new people that came in. Luckily, there were enough seats. There weren't more than 45 people in the public that wanted to sit down. So nobody actually lost their seat, but it just, it makes no sense. We had the system figured out. We had it all figured out, guys. Like there's no problems here. We got it figured out. Just let us keep doing what we're doing. And they're like, no, we have to be in control. We have to be in charge. You have to do what we say. Okay. All right.
Well, understood, but that seemed like they broke it. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And it sounds like they broke it.
Well, so I read between the lines of what he said yesterday, and honestly, what I think happened was somebody that matters complained about it. Because people will bitch and moan whichever way you have it. If you have a system that's working and they don't get in the first 45, because it's first come, first serve. Literally, that is the definition of public access, is quote unquote first come, first serve.
Sure.
So, but they will bitch and moan if they're the 46th or 48th or 50th person and they don't get in. I don't like the system. I think you guys need to fix it. I think you guys need to change it. So to me, them changing it, like on one of the recent days when we had it working fine, that just means that somebody that matters complained to somebody else that matters.
It's funny you say that, because somebody said that yesterday in our chat. I forget who it was, but somebody said that exact same thing. Somebody complained that mattered. Exactly. Those exact same words. So
yeah.
I just want to take this moment before we go any further, that those that are watching on Trial TV Live, please give Joe Schmo a thumbs up and a subscribe. And those that are watching on Joe Show, please give Trial TV Live a thumbs up and subscribe. We are here to support the entire community. I think Joe is doing some spectacular work, being boots on the ground for us. And we're really happy to be part of this dual stream. And I just want to make sure that, both parties are supporting each other, and that's how we grow this community. So appreciate
absolutely.
You guys. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. We've got good people in both of our channels, so they should absolutely go to the other one.
Be like Pammy and dual stream. Straddle the stream. I think, I think Nanar, I saw you, you're over at Joe Schmo as well, and Gen 405. Yeah. So we got we have a few people cross. I'm not going to say anymore. I'm just going to say support both channels. Trace on the case. Good to see you. We missed you yesterday, right? I don't think you were you with us yesterday? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah. And she wasn't with me today. She had other things to do. So she took her first day of trial off today.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
Trace, everybody missed you. They wanted to let you know that I was a poor substitute for Trace on the case.
Right on. Yep, Mike Morrow, my first ever dual stream. Just saying. Well, Mike, there's a time and place for everything, and this is the time and the place. So, all right, let's get to it. Day 7 of Arizona versus Lori Daybell. What can you tell us?
All right. So we got started like right on time. So at 10:30, the judge enters. Lori came in wearing black pantsuit. You guys saw what she was wearing. I don't need to go over that. I take detailed notes about what she was wearing, though, just in case.
Sure. Yeah, you never know. Somebody may ask. You never know.
Purple and black. She had on a black pantsuit with a purple blouse. I call it purple. I'm sure somebody would be like, "Oh, it's lavender."
Right. Is this like a similar has she worn this outfit before?
Yes.
Or is this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. She has I think 3 outfits. Okay. She has the black pantsuit and she has one other pantsuit. I haven't seen the other one, but a couple of times. And then I think she has 2 or 3 blouses.
Okay. Oh God, I just said okay, and I had flashbacks of Lori when she's like, okay. I'm like, oh no.
It's contagious. No.
Do you hear those okay? Do you hear
Oh
those?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
She goes, okay.
Yeah. It's like nails on a chalkboard at this point for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we resume cross of Detective Nathan. Wait, this isn't cross. This is Nathan. Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, this is him.
Nathan Duncan hasn't been here because he's been sick. Mm-hmm. So he is the state's witness here for direct examination. He has been with the Chandler Police Department for nearly 25 years, currently with the Robbery and Homicide Division. When he went out that day, he was not the case agent. When he went out to the scene of the crime on July 11th, 2019, he was not the case agent. He arrived. He saw that the crime scene tape was already up. He saw Alex, but at that time, he didn't know who Alex was. Mm-hmm. Basically, he assisted Coons with crime scene. He was an extra set of eyes and ears and hands to help process the crime scene. He did not enter the house until they got a search warrant around 11:53 that morning. He was not the case agent at that time. She asked him about his 911 call on his report, and he said, I made a mistake on the report. It was supposed to be 8:36, and I put down 8:32. I don't know that that's a big deal. I mean, then that means that all that means is Charles, if 8:32 was correct, then Charles would have laid there dead for 40 minutes instead of 45.
All right.
Basically.
Yep.
He said they did do their lizard Q scanning, photographing before they physically entered the house. He did see Charles's body. He did not see a lot of blood on the scene. Mm-hmm. That's a big point to me. I think Lori could have probed it more. He states the only source for blood on his hand, so he saw blood on his left hand. He says the only source of that would have been him touching his chest. Mm-hmm. You heard in Trina's opening was her theory for how that happened. Mm-hmm. I have another theory how it could have possibly happened, but he says that's the only way it could have happened. Makes that declarative statement. There was not a lot of pooled blood until the ME showed up and rolled him over, and then he saw more pooled blood. He saw the bat on his right side. Then he went around the house looking for blood evidence anywhere in the house. There were no splatters or spatters or smears. I think drops, spatters, or smears in the rest of the great room. So they checked the entire rest of the great room. There were no blood spatters. Mm-hmm. And this gets my interest up because if you get shot through the heart with a .45 caliber bullet, how are there no blood spatters behind you? None. Mm-hmm. How are there none?
Yeah, I agree. There should have been some things, but then the next question, I'll let you continue on. The next question kind of addresses it, I guess, a little bit. Not really.
The only thing I have in my notes is that the only blood he found in the house was the smear on the kitchen faucet. So do you have something between those?
No. I'm sorry. I guess it's the next one. Yeah.
Oh, well, the next one I have is were there any bloody clothes? And no, there were no bloody clothes in the rest of the house.
Right. So didn't find any towels or shirts. They may have been used to clean up or stop the bleeding. So, and then they touched upon luminol like way further down the road. So why was there, like, what happened to the blood? If Alex didn't, or maybe he cleaned up and then they threw it away. I mean, he had 45 minutes. Maybe he burned it.
That's time to do something. Not burn it. That's not time to burn it, but that's time to put it somewhere. Yeah, that's a good question. And you know what? We also find out that he didn't confiscate Alex's phone, so we don't have Alex's geolocation data, where Alex might have gone during that 45, 47 minutes.
There you go. Yep, exactly. Yeah, Alex could have cleaned up, but wouldn't there be like smear on the floor? And
well, you know what? That's what luminol's for testing for.
Yeah, and they didn't.
That's what luminol's for. Luminol is they set it on cross. So we're jumping way ahead of ourselves here. We're jumping way ahead. Yeah. But luminol is, he testified that luminol is for scenes where you think somebody has cleaned up afterwards, and you're looking for trace elements of blood.
Yeah.
And you know what? We didn't get luminol here, so we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. But he says that there were no towels or shirts that may have been used to clean up or stop the bleeding. So I think she was going with stop the bleeding. Like he shot Charles, but then he did nothing, absolutely nothing to try and save his life. He didn't stop the bleeding. He didn't do CPR. He just let him lie there basically and bleed out. And then he shot him again for good measure. But yeah, he did nothing to help Charles. Because you see that people are in self-defense, they'll shoot somebody or they'll do something, knife somebody, but then they'll try to help save them because that person's, innocent at that point, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, again, botched investigation. Lori's got a point. She kind of went after that a little bit. And again, I know we're jumping
I
way ahead, but
we are, but that gives me a lead into. I honestly think this was her best day in court. I
hmm,
do. I think
okay,
she scored more points today than she has before.
yeah.
Hey, Trace on the case. Thanks for joining us and helping mod my channel, keeping all those trolls out. Salty, welcome in. Thanks for joining us.
You said earlier you had a theory of how Charles got blood on his hand. That was not with not him touching his the gun, the wound. What do you
Yeah.
want to
What if
talk about?
what if there was blood in a lot of other places that they ended up cleaning up? Then
Uh,
and his hand got rolled around in blood that was somewhere else besides on his chest, because he's
mhm,
assuming. First of all, he assumed, and I'm jumping ahead. We're jumping ahead so much, but he's
mhm,
assuming that the shot happened. The detective is assuming the shot happened 5 minutes before he showed up. Right,
mhm.
911 calls place. They show up within 5 minutes.
Yeah,
They come in the house. They come in the house, and there's not blood everywhere. Then they didn't try and clean up. So he's assuming that. But what if there was blood everywhere and they did a decent enough job of cleaning it up that
yeah,
it didn't get the detective's attention? That's
yeah.
my theory, is that there should have been. So that's exactly what this point is, like right on this testimony. The only blood, so there was no significant blood pooling around the body.
Mhm.
And the only blood they found in the rest of the house was a smear on the kitchen sink.
Yeah,
Like
and
that just does not sound like a two-shot homicide scene. It does
mhm,
not. With a
yeah,
45.
right, right. And these detectives and officers, I'm sure, have been to enough scenes where they've seen, gunshot wounds, and they're. I wonder what the talk is amongst them. I wonder if like they go have a beer on Friday night, and they're like, "Hey, off the record," but I don't know, because it's not adding up. Things are not adding up.
They're not.
Yeah,
Well, and they started to figure out pretty quickly that they weren't adding up. So
yeah,
why not go back to the house and do luminol testing after you figure out that the timeline isn't working out? Go get another search warrant. Go say, hey, this additional evidence we have gathered
mhm,
gives us probable cause to return to the scene and do more additional testing. And at that point, that was the next day. That was July 12th that he
mhm,
testifies that he was figuring out that the timeline didn't work and we were starting to get suspicious. We had questions. He literally
mhm,
said, we had questions. Okay.
right.
Well, answer your questions, go get a search warrant and go do luminol testing in that house and see where any blood may be.
Yeah, yeah. And again, jumping ahead, but Lori brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
She
Yeah.
brought that up.
I think she may be watching our recaps. I really do.
I hope so. Hey, Lori.
Well, she said she gets back to her cell like between 5 and 6 o'clock, so that's like perfect timing. Like we go
Hmm.
live at 6.
Yeah,
Hi, Lori. Hi.
yeah.
Hi there.
I
I'll
hope you
give you
are
some
enjoying.
ideas.
Yeah,
Right.
we'll
I'll,
give you
I'll
some
give her
ideas
some
for
ideas.
closing.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
For
you
closing
read my
arguments.
mind. Oh.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinions of this channel.
I've got a banner that says that actually. Aaron, where you at? We need you.
Right. Uh, all right.
Okay, so
So
the
next
the
up.
blood in the rest of the house, no bloody clothes. Then he goes into the orange duffel bag and the gun. He picked up the gun with gloves. He secured it. He emptied out the magazine and the cartridge. Made it safe. The one cartridge that was chambered, he showed in a picture. The gun he showed in a picture. I didn't see a. I think the magazine cartridge. Yeah, I think the magazine was still in it when he took it out. Um, then the gun case was in there. The gun case had extra magazines. So we have the magazine that's in the gun.
Mhm.
We have extra magazines in the gun case.
Mhm.
Why did the ballistics expert that we heard from a couple of days ago not have any magazines when he got that gun to test? Where did
Mhm.
all of those magazines end up between 2019, July of 2019 and end of February 2025?
Mhm.
Where are
Yeah,
those at?
good question. Chain of
Lori should have
custody.
asked that today. Yeah.
Chain of custody. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Um, he learned of Alex's injury during the investigation. He didn't say exactly when. That made us aware of the possibility that there would be additional blood. So we were a little more aware to be looking out for blood because of an additional injury to one of the participants. Something about after the medical examiner. After the medical examiner took the body, he didn't remember what time. They cleaned up the blood that was under Charles. They noticed the defect on the floor. Um, and they noticed two projectiles, one in the wall and one loose on the floor. Um, they looked around the room to see if there were any obvious deformations in the ceiling or the walls due to other projectiles. They didn't notice anything. They did not search the rental car. And I'm not sure why Trina asked this. Did you search the
Mhm.
rental car? And he's like, no, we didn't. I'm like, why'd you ask him that, Trina?
Right. And Lori and Charles had the rental car all day.
Right.
So that's why they didn't search it, but they came back. They came back at what? When did they come back at? Well,
I
let's
would,
see.
you know what? I would guess that their search warrant didn't include that car. It included the other cars because they were in the curtilage.
Yeah.
There's that word,
Yeah.
curtilage.
Curtilage.
But
Yeah.
that car was not in the curtilage, so they didn't
Mhm.
have a search warrant for it.
Mhm.
Um, and
Three
and
people.
maybe
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
So day of, I can understand why they didn't have a search warrant for it, but everything after that, they probably should have, especially if they ran that plate and saw that it was rented for Charles. It
Mhm.
wasn't Lori's rental car. It wasn't Alex's rental car. It was
Right.
Charles's rental car, the
Yeah.
deceased.
Right.
So it wouldn't be a stretch that there's probable cause to search that too.
Right. And three people that were there were in that car coming
Yeah.
back from law enforcement interviews in a police station, and they didn't bother to search it. But
Yeah.
uh, again, there's a list. There's a growing list of like, why didn't law enforcement do this? Why didn't they do that? So
Yeah. And Lori gets into some of that later, and I like it. I
she
mean, I
does.
don't like it. I don't like it because she's a horrible human being and she
Yeah.
deserves to be in prison for the rest of her life. But I believe in justice and I believe in getting a guilty verdict based on good investigation and following the rule of evidence, laws of evidence, and procedure, and all of that.
Hmm.
So okay, so we talked a little bit, and I got some feedback from this, some negative feedback from this. We talked a little bit about how Trina was asking a lot of leading questions. Trina K is asking a ton of leading questions.
Hmm.
And anybody with a regular attorney would have a ton of objections to the way they're formed, and we would have had all the rules figured out and she would be doing it the proper way. And you said something like that's the varsity team playing the JV team.
Right. Right.
Really it's more like the varsity team playing the junior high team at this point.
Right.
But
Yeah.
still,
Yeah. Or
if
elementary.
you go
Yeah.
if you go up to dunk and you're in the if you go up to dunk on the junior high team, or now it's middle school, if you go up to dunk on the middle school team and you take 3 steps before you dunk, that's a travel.
Hmm.
You don't need to take 3 steps and travel before you dunk.
Hmm.
You take a
True.
step and a half and you dunk.
Right.
So you're violating the rules, and just because the refs don't call it doesn't mean that you didn't violate the rules.
Hmm.
And it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you don't deserve to win the game, but play the game right.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there were people in our chat today saying, "Wow, that was a leading question. Wow, that was how leading was that?" Yeah, and you've been saying it the entire trial.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I mean, isn't that up to the judge then? But uh,
No, it's not. It's actually
not a
not.
yeah.
unless there's some kind of an objection raised by either attorney, the judge doesn't have a responsibility
To
unless he
say,
sees something that is blatantly unethical or
yeah.
against the rules of the bar or whatever you call it.
Mhm.
He doesn't have an obligation to interfere and get in the middle of them.
I
He
have
has to.
seen I have seen cases where it may even been it might have been like Karen Reed pre-trial. I'm not sure, but somebody was trying to introduce evidence and they didn't show it to the opposing counsel, and the judge was like, "You need to show that to. You need to make sure you have to show that." So Judge Boreski could have very easily said, "Ms. K, you needed to show that to defense before admitting it." I don't know, or maybe in a sidebar, he could have been like, "Hey, hey Trina, you need to." I don't know. I mean, I don't know. These are great questions for lawyers out there. Um, I don't know if Ken is in our chat. He's our resident lawyer. If what's the protocol? Do you just let that pro se person just flop around like a fish, or do you, as a judge, I don't know. That's just I just don't know.
Well, yeah, I don't know either. I don't know.
Because on one hand, she's despicable and she deserves everything she gets, but then on the other hand, I'm like, I just don't want any kind of appeals to be like, oh well, these were leading questions. Well, no, she didn't object, and I get that. If she doesn't object, that's it. Water under the bridge. You can't fix it. So,
Right.
but
And it's not appealable.
and yeah,
It's not an appealable matter.
right. And she cannot say ineffectual counsel. So
Right. Well, she can, but then the finger comes back and points right at her.
right.
No, but actually she can't. Actually is a legal precedent that if you
Oh,
go pro per, pro se, whatever it is.
yeah.
In Arizona, it's pro per. It means the same as pro se. You
Mhm.
cannot argue ineffectual counsel ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yarn work. She has more than just a paralegal. Uh, Yarn work is saying she has a paralegal there. She's got her advisory counsel, her paralegal, her investigator. Uh, Jeff
And
White
she did.
is he there
Yep.
too? Yeah.
She did defer with them several times today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Defer.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
Moving on.
So they cleaned up the blood under Charles. They noticed the defect on the floor, the two projectiles in the wall and loose. Didn't see other holes. In June, and that ended his scene involvement on July 11th, 2019. On June of 2020, he became the case agent, and that's because Moffat got promoted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But prior to that, so she kind of jumped ahead and she confused me. But prior to that, so in between July 11th of 2019 and a year later, 11 months later, when he became the case agent, he actually did some investigation on this, which included extraction data of Charles's phone to start with, and then also serving search warrants on Lori's and Alex's phones.
Mm-hmm.
Did they have search warrants for anybody else's phones? I don't think they did.
No, it would have been Tylee, right? She would have been the only other one
Right.
that was there. I guess they could have done Summer, Melanie. They could have done a bunch of other people, Adam, but I guess Tylee would have been the only logical one because she was there, I guess, right?
Right. So then she asked them, did you see the electronic interactions between these parties on June 27th? Oh, so there were a bunch of phone messages, a ton of them. There were so many that I couldn't even keep up and like write down even half of them. So I've got a few of the important ones written down, but I would be writing down like verbatim what the text messages said, and I would get like 3 of the 4 down, and Trina would rip that thing out of there, and I'd be like, no, put it back up. Put it back up.
Yeah.
But Annie was sitting to my left, and she's on her computer, and she's just looking up sideways up at the monitor, and she's just like typing on her computer, and she gets it done in like 30 seconds. So I'm like, can I have your notes? Can I have your notes, please?
Right.
I can type decently fast, and maybe I should figure out if I can type faster than I can handwrite, because these are all handwritten notes I have. So I have like maybe half of the text messages. But she noted, Trina K noted, was there a difference in the text messages that you reviewed before June 27th of 2019 and after June 27th of 2019? Especially involving an email address, kkwalker75@yahoo.com.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go into the KK Walker stuff.
Yep.
And this is interesting stuff. So we find out that the KK Walker email address was set up with an old phone number of Lori, and I don't know what he means by old phone number. Was that former and it's not current in 2019? Or I don't, he just said an old phone number of Lori's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't catch it. I just have phone number needed to verify it was linked to Lori. I didn't. Yeah, that's all I have.
But there were multiple SMS and texts on that KK Walker email. And Charles. Okay, so I don't have this in my notes. I had to talk to other people around me who are more familiar with the case. And what happened was, when Lori got back from Hawaii and she moved to Houston with Charles and JJ, she left herself logged into her account on one of the computers that stayed there in Charles's house in Houston. So he ended up renting her a house back in Chandler, and that's the South Four Peaks house. And she moved there about a week before this 6/27/19. So that would have been 6/20 to 6/25. Okay. Therapist, supposedly. No. Don't do that in here. Supposedly. Especially supposedly. So she was there in like the third week of June. She was in the new house in Chandler. She had left a computer back in Houston, logged into her iCloud account, and Charles got into that, and he saw these text messages with other accounts, especially with Chad. And he started seeing these and like putting two and two together pretty quickly. I mean, he's a pretty smart guy. And he started confronting them. So he contacted Chad first, and then he contacted Tammy, and then he contacted Adam's wife and Adam to tell them about this thing that was going on between Chad and Lori. And we'll find out later that the thing between Chad and Lori had been going on like since the previous November, like during these preparing a people conferences.
Right.
So he sent an email. So there was an email that was supposedly from Charles that was asking Chad. But before that, so we know about the email that was asking Chad to come down to Arizona. But we found out that there were also several emails from the KK Walker account asking Chad to come down to Houston to visit before the email asking him to come down and visit Chandler, visit the Phoenix area. So, but the ones for Houston weren't supposedly from Charles. They were just from this KK Walker person, and they were just come down to visit Houston and, put on a conference or whatever it is. He didn't do that. Chad didn't do that in Houston, but she sent him an email. Once she got to Chandler, she sent him an email pretending to be Chad or pretending to be Charles that said, Chad, come down and like help me write a book about my, my professional baseball career or whatever. Lori objects on relevance grounds. It's ignored. He doesn't even say dismissed. It's just ignored.
Yeah. There was a lot of that.
Yes. April 21st to June 26th. So this is the time period that she's moving. She had moved to Houston. She was living in Houston for a while. So the middle of April, May, June. So for 2 months, she was in Houston. Several emails from Karen to Brother Daybell. That's a Mormon thing. You call guys, you call dudes brothers, and not in the fun way. Then there were texts between Charles and Adam that we re-reviewed. So we had seen these before with one of the other witnesses, and she points out the fact and clarifies the fact that between Adam and Charles that morning of July 11th, there were several text messages that were back and forth, boom, 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 real time between Adam and Charles. You know, Alex is here. They're planning something. You do what you think is best, or you do what you think you should do. And those were replied to immediately, but at like 7:48 in the morning was the last time that there was a reply received, or I think it may have even been before 7:48. I don't have the time listed here. But anyway, all of those text messages were read on Charles' phone at like 12 something in the afternoon. So long after he had passed.
Yep.
So they did a search warrant on Lori's iCloud. She had 2 iClouds accounts. She had her Lolly something or other, Lolly Time, and then she had her Lori for Style, 2 iCloud accounts. So they did a search warrant on those. She objected again on relevance, overruled. It wasn't overruled, it was ignored. I wrote overruled, but that's wrong. He just ignored them. He said, Exhibit 289 shall be entered.
Yep.
Do you have another thought?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. So then we see that after they took Charles's phone back to Alex's house down in Santan Valley, they took pictures of Charles's phone messages with Alex's phone. So they didn't do like screenshots on Charles' phone. Alex took his phone. So Alex pulled up the message on Charles' phone, and then he held his phone over it and took a picture of the text message on Charles' phone. So we see 2 times on that. We see a time in the top left corner of those images that's actually like the real time on Alex's phone, and then we see another time that's down below that's actually the message time when Charles either sent or received a message.
Right.
Then
that kind of confused me at the very beginning when that first came in, but then it eventually made sense to me. So thank you for saying that, because that really solidified.
Yeah, the way she worded it was awkward, and the way he answered it was awkward.
Yeah, I didn't quite get it. It wasn't until like almost at the end of the day where she kind of sorted it out. I think it was maybe a jury question or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the jury question, and it's funny because the juror asked that question, and I turned to the person next to me, and I'm like, I have the same question.
Yeah. I kind of knew what was going on, but I wasn't quite sure. I was like, whose phone was that? I know it's not. Was that Charles's phone? It wasn't a screenshot? Right. Anyway, thank you for clarifying that for sure now.
Right. And then that was sent prior to Adam flying back. I don't know why that's an important issue. Then at 7:49, she's reiterating the timeline thing now. So she goes 7:49, Charles's phone left 4 Peaks, and then 911 wasn't called until 8:36. So she says Charles lay dead on that. So she said the medical examiner said that after you're shot through the heart, you may live for 2 minutes. So we have a 47-minute time gap. So Charles lay dead on that floor before 911 was called for at least 45 minutes. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
And in that time period from 7:52 a.m. until 8:06 a.m., there were 2 calls. Alex called Lori twice in that time period. So what's going on with that? And we find out later that Lori and Chad actually had calls and texts during that time period.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was in between when, well, it was before Charles was shot and it was after Charles was shot.
Yeah. Yep.
So she's calling Alex, or he's calling her, and she's texting Chad and he's texting or calling her. Okay. So then we learned that Adam attempted to contact Alex several times after he flew into Phoenix on July 10th. We've heard this before. He arrived. There was no response from Alex. Then also later he sent some texts that were not returned. So reiterating earlier testimony. Then we see the lease agreement at the Four Peaks address. They signed a 3-year lease agreement. That's a pretty good 3-year lease agreement, because the property values can change a lot in 3 years, for the better or for the worse. But if they go up, then a 3-year lease agreement is a good thing, right?
Yeah. Here, real quick, let me just jump in here. MG saying, did the prosecution rest? Do you want to talk about that now, or do you want to save that?
Oh, are you jumping ahead? We don't do that on this channel.
All right, MG. I'm sure people will tell you, but we won't
Yes.
jump ahead.
We can. Absolutely, we can. Both the prosecution and the defense rested today, but Lori gets a take back. She can take back her resting, and she can testify on her own behalf. We'll get into that more later. But the prosecution and the defense both rested today. It was exactly 4 p.m. I looked at my phone. It was exactly 4 p.m. when the prosecution rested, when the state rested today.
Right. MG, we're not quite on verdict watch. Now you're really getting ahead. So we gave you one. We gave you one. We're not going to give you another one.
No, we have to have closing arguments, and then we have to have jury deliberations.
Right. So
which
not
can
quite.
take a very variable amount of time.
Yeah. We're still looking at next week, probably next week for a verdict, but we're close.
Yes, we are close. Lease agreement. And then we know that even though he rented or leased the house on Four Peaks, he was still living in Houston. And then we're looking into Lori for Style, her iCloud account under Lori for Style. There were recordings of Chad Daybell on that account from Preparing a People. They just testified to it verbally. We never saw the actual evidence of that. And I'm kind of curious why we didn't. Because that's objection, no foundation. If I'm a good defense attorney, like, I want to see those. Why don't we have those? You're stating something as fact in front of the court, in front of the jurors, without presenting any evidence that is fact. The Preparing a People. So then Duncan learned something about the name Ned, that it was associated with some type of a dark entity or possession or zombie. And now we start to see the texts from Alex. Ned was at the temple. He thinks you are staying with me. Lori says, that's good, that he is so off. That was on February 15th, on March 2nd. So this is the time period when Lori has disappeared out of the lives of JJ and Tylee and Charles. But she's texting with Alex. Go ahead.
This is where when she's been going on and on about threatening messages from Charles. I think this is where, if they were allowed to show all of his text messages, I think this is where he'd be like, Lori, where the hell are you? Your son is crying for you. JJ's crying for you every night. Where are you? So she's saying, oh, there's threatening messages. He was probably saying, Lori, where the heck are you? Where are you? And she took that as a threatening message, or he was truly threatening. But then there's also all these other messages that would probably doom her even more, that she just split on them. So I kind of hope we get to see those text messages, because, State's going to bring them all in, and she's just going to say, see, look, here it is. He's saying, I hate you. I'm going to do this and that to you. Well, you disappeared for 58 days and then another 30 days or whatever, 28 days, whatever.
What if he says something like, you need to get your ass back here and take care of your kids type of thing? Would that be quote unquote threatening?
but that's threatening. Yeah. So, and then I have, okay, there was a bunch of text messages, and one of them was Ned came to the house and Tylee unleashed on him, and then
Yep,
he went to
that's what I
Summer's
have
house.
next. Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. So
No, no,
that
you're
was
good.
interesting. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Tylee unleashed on Charles.
And
Well,
that and
yeah.
that was like unsolicited. Like he just offered that. So
Mhm.
we need to have an episode on just Tylee. Like we need to go back and look at her interview and look at these type of references to her in these texts,
Yeah.
and then Lori has a good reference to her interview later.
Right. I started this and I'm going to pull it up. Krista asked, explain the chapters. We will get to
We'll
that
get
for
it. We'll
sure.
get it. Yes, we will get
We'll
to that.
we'll get to that, Krista. Don't worry.
Yep.
Hang tight, Chad. Hang tight.
I did study Nephi 1, Nephi 2, or first Nephi, second Nephi, third Nephi, fourth Nephi when I was in high school.
Okay. So we will get to that because I want to know that as well. All right.
Okay, so yeah, Ned came by, Tylee went off on him, and then we go into the Lolly Time Forever Gmail. Ned is still alive on 326. It's not Ned, it's a new one.
Mhm.
Among other text messages. I can't read them all. We'll be here till midnight.
Yeah, there was a lot. Nothing really spectacular. I have him. No one has seen him. Just talk to him. Correct. Charles' body's alive. What did you learn? Still working on it.
That was my next note. That's awesome. We got the same notes.
Right.
What did you learn a lot? Yeah. Weird cryptic messages. So I guess right here it's a good time to point out the fact that what is the jury making of this? Because they're pretty stone faced. Like I make a point now, like I'm tweeting and I'm taking handwritten notes, and I'm also making a point to look at the jury like at least every 5 minutes, if not more frequently. They're really, really stone faced. Like they're not on the edge of their seats. They're not like nodding off. Although jury 8 gives me concerns about that at times.
No. Are they
But
taking notes? Do you think? Are they taking
there are
notes?
there are a handful of them that are taking notes that are like maybe 4 of them are taking detailed notes. Maybe 6 of them are taking like general notes,
Okay.
general
All
or
right.
detailed. Yeah.
And juror
But
15, I know we'll get to him at some point, but how is he
he
reacting through all of this?
he's pretty stone faced. He's pretty
Mhm.
nonchalant.
Like, how does he sit? He's nonchalant, right? Is he sitting back like this, or is he like upright? Is he arms
He moves
crossed?
back. He actually moves back and forth between those positions. Like sometimes he'll be
Okay.
sitting back like this, and
Yeah.
sometimes he'll be sitting forward like this, and sometimes he'll be
Yeah.
like chewing his gum. And
Really? Judges allow gum? Judges allowing
yeah,
gum?
yep,
Wow, Boreski is he's like he's progressive, right? He allows cell phones, he allows gum. What's going
right.
on with him?
I did see Juror 15 when he came back from one of the breaks take his phone out and like hit that mute button or that low volume 0 button all the way on his phone.
Mm.
And I'll tell you why he needed to do that after a while when we get
Yeah,
to
yeah,
lunch
yeah.
break.
Okay, we're almost there. We're almost there.
We
All right.
are almost there. So then we get into the life insurance policy and the beneficiary change. She took photos of the actual form. So she had the original form and then she had some other type of form. But then on his computer, on his laptop, she pulled up the beneficiary change form and she took a picture of that and she sent it to Alex
Mhm.
from her Lolly Time account. And then more text of Alex with Lori. Mel is bringing Bowdy over. Did you see that? Boudy. Mel is
No,
bringing Bowdy over.
no, I
I don't
missed
know.
that.
I don't know who Bowdy is. I looked at that like 3 times. What or who is Bowdy?
Mm.
Can you come? Okay, I'll be over there in a little bit. That's perfect. Thanks. What's your address? So that's when she texts him finally what her new address is. He didn't know it before then. So this was on July 9th.
Mhm.
He didn't even know where she was living before July 9th.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But they're so close. She has him come over on July 10th to protect her.
Right, right.
And then at night at 9 p.m., she says, so the plot thickens. She says, I'm getting sleepy. I need you to stay close for the next few days. It's
Mhm.
all coming to a head. I will be like Nephi, I'm told, and so
Mhm.
will you.
Mhm.
So we hear about Nephi, and
Hold
then
on.
they have an.
I
Go
got to
ahead.
pull this up. Pammy, who knows how to straddle love bomb? Watch out. Who knows who knows how I straddle love bomb? Thank you, Pammy.
Thanks,
That's
Pammy.
awesome. Pammy, you're the best.
Uh, always the Joker. Always the Joker.
Yeah, they are planning on some kind of intervention, but they want Mel out of the way. It's all coming to a head this weekend. I will be like Nephi, and I am told, and so are you. So who's telling her? Is that Chad telling her, or is that her delusions telling her, or her whatever telling her?
It,
Do you
it
know?
could be either one, and Chad is kind of her delusion. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Welcome back, therapist. Hope your ribs were good. Oh, there you go. Oh, she got you. She got you
thank
too.
you,
So
Pammy.
there you
The double
go.
love bomb worked.
Strange love bomb. Take cover. Pammy, you're the best. We love our
Mhm.
Pammy.
Yes, we do. And then can you talk? And they had an hour-long phone conversation on July 9th at 10 o'clock ish PM.
Mhm.
And then we take a lunch break.
Yes. And what happened during lunch?
Okay. So they changed the seating rules. So you cannot save a seat. Like you can't go and put your backpack down in your seat and then go downstairs to the cafe and get a sandwich, walk around a little bit, maybe go outside and get some fresh air, and then come back up to your seat. There's quote unquote no save seats, which is an absolutely ridiculous policy.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. Like you're encouraging people to be unhealthy. Like, and it's very unhealthy because if you just sit there and run back and forth between your seat outside the courtroom and your seat inside the courtroom, and you don't eat anything healthy and you don't like get much exercise, then it's a bad combination. It's a bad
Mhm.
policy.
Yeah.
But
Plus, they change it like, well, what we thought possibly midway through the trial, but now we're finding it's like towards the end of the trial. But still, it's weird because you guys had been there all last week and it was set up. You
yeah,
had kind of set it up. You with your
yeah,
whistle and your little flag, you had set it up.
right.
Everybody was cool, and they decided to change it. But I think, like you said earlier, and chat said yesterday, somebody of some VIP may have said some things that, so
Right, right.
yeah,
Somebody important didn't get in.
yep.
Okay, so I brought my lunch today. I knew based on the rules that he announced yesterday that I was not going to go. Oh, look at that, Kickaroo.
So, thank you for your $10 donation. Appreciate that. Super sticker.
Very nice. Thank you, Kickaroo.
I love that name, Kikaru. Oh,
Yeah,
AJ,
that's a cool
Joe, I
name,
can't.
right?
Yeah, I can't give enough props for keeping everyone in line for public seating. AJ, nice.
Yeah, well, they didn't like me taking charge of that, so they had to take charge of it and they had to screw it up. I had it all flowing just fine. Just go
Mm,
with the flow, guys.
yep.
Go with the flow. Listen to Joe Schmo.
Nice. So,
So
okay.
anyway, so I brought my lunch today. So I go and I was in seat 5 in the morning session. And that meant that he put me, so whoever is inside the courtroom directs you to either the left side or the right side of the gallery.
Mhm.
He directed me to the left side, which is behind Lori. And I'm like, I really want to sit on the right side, which is behind the family. And it's like, nope, you got to go over here. So I had to sit behind Lori for the morning session. And by the way, there was somebody that was sitting there. A young lady was sitting there with really dark brown hair. I would guess mid to late 20s at the oldest, maybe even college age to mid 20s.
Mhm.
Hadn't seen her before at the trial. And she was sitting in the family section behind Lori. And during that section where the state was talking about how Charles had been left there dead on the floor for 45 to 47 minutes, she got up and left during that part.
Oh, wow. Huh.
So I don't know if that part got to her, but she didn't come. She didn't ever come back.
Wow.
So
Was Colby there?
Colby was not there today.
Colby?
No,
Okay. We have
Kay was there for
Kay
most
was-
of it.
Okay. Beach Bum, $5 super sticker. Thank you.
Oh, nice, Beach Bum. Very generous. Thank you.
Right. Drunky, I see your question. I starred that, so we will get to questions in a little bit. So when you're walking in, is it like every other person gets left seating, right seating,
No,
left
no,
seating,
no, no.
or no?
They
Go down
do.
the
So yeah. So yesterday, what they did was they filled in the entire left side first, and they go
Mhm.
first row, 7 or 8 seats. I don't remember. So there's 7 on one side, 8 on the other. I don't remember the breakdown, left or right. Left side fills in first row, second row, third row, and then right side first row, second row, third row. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. That means people who came in like way late get a second row seat.
Yeah.
They
How fair is
recognize
that?
they recognized that today, and they
Okay.
did first row left side, first row right side, second row left side, second row right side. So
Okay.
I got in the morning session, I got first row left side, and I'm like, I'm gonna sit on second row right side this time. So I sat in the 10th seat.
Mhm.
So the first 7 or 8 people go on the left side, and I go on the right side. So I'm behind the family for the entire afternoon session because I can strategize sometimes.
That's a good word.
Um,
Strategize.
strategize, and I strategized my seating placement, and I got a better seat in the second part just because I'd rather be on the right side behind the family than on Lori's side. Plus, I can see the jury better from there. And I can see Lori better from there, actually, too. I couldn't see her at all in the morning session. Anyway,
And,
so go
and
ahead.
the witness, so you were saying yesterday, no matter where you sit, you still can't see the witness.
It's really difficult. I actually had a decent view of him in the afternoon today from where I was. If you're anywhere in like the middle of the gallery or even the left side of the gallery, there are so many monitors on the attorney's desks that
Okay.
they block the witness. They block you from being able to see the witness. But from
Right.
where I was in the afternoon, I got a good view.
Yep. Could be a fight over those chairs, possibly our next trial.
We had the system figured out. We had it figured out. Okay. So we go to lunch. I get my seat. I eat my my turkey and ham sandwich that I made this morning with mayonnaise, mustard, pickle, and tomato, and Kojak cheese.
Oh, there you go.
And I froze bottled water overnight, so
Mhm.
it kept the sandwiches cold during the morning session.
There you go. You are a professional.
I'm getting there. I am getting there. But anyway, I get up and I got to walk around and I've got to take a couple of business phone calls. So I go and I walk towards the other end. And when I get down past the elevators to the other end, I notice that there are a couple of jurors hanging out there. And I'm like, oh, crap, I probably shouldn't hang out here. I should probably go back to where the public is. So I start walking back. I get past the elevators and I just lean up like on the wall next to one of the elevators. And juror number 15 like comes sauntering past me in his nonchalant way.
Ah.
And right as he's even with me, his phone rings. And I'm like, I know that phone ring.
Okay.
So his phone rings and he gets on his phone and he's talking on his phone like a mere 5 or 6 feet from where I'm talking on my phone. I'm not talking about the trial. I'm talking about business, other matters, has nothing to do with the trial. So I'm not concerned about it. But it was odd to me that his phone rang like right when he was even with me. We kind of made eye contact, just kind of half eye contact right when he was walking past me. But then I go and after my business phone call, I go and I sit down on my seat and he comes over and he stands like around the corner from where I was by the elevators. And he just leans up against that wall and just sits there. And this is like where the elevators are. It's like on the corner where the elevators are and where the men's restroom is. And it's literally like 15 feet from where there's a whole bunch of true crime people standing there talking about the case. and he's just standing there like pretending like he's not watching us, but I say pretending deliberately.
Juror 15, what are you doing?
Exactly. Go back to the other side, dude. So I kind of quietly went over to the middle of the group and I'm like, hey guys, we have a juror that's standing right over there, like
Yeah,
within hearing distance of us. We need to watch what we say while he's standing over there.
right.
And everybody got really, really quiet. And a couple people said, thank you for letting us know. And then I went and sat down, and then I turned around like 5 minutes later and he was gone. So I don't know how long he was standing out there, but that is just a really odd behavior for a
Yeah,
juror to
yeah.
deliberately go stand that close to the public. He's
Uh-huh.
begging for an interview. He needs to be interviewed.
Yeah, he's probably sorting out who's going to interview me first and how much will I charge.
Right. Right.
Let's see who has the most expensive watch on, who has the best looking shoes. All
Right.
right, I'm going to interview with you, and I'm going to charge you $10,000. Something like that.
Oh shoot,
Yeah.
I need to wear my Rolex tomorrow. Oh wait, I don't have one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Good one. Yeah. Kudos to you. Baca says, yeah, kudos to you. And Krista, juror 15 is juror number 9 in Runaway Jury. Is that a movie? I didn't watch that one. Is
I
that
think it is. I
that
think
a
it may be
movie?
a book too. Is that like a John Grisham novel? Maybe, I don't know.
Could be. Yeah, it could be. Future, he needs to be an alternate, period. Can you
Yeah.
imagine if he ends up being the foreman or the foreperson?
Yeah, I guarantee that he will make that. I guarantee you, I would lay money on it that he's going to make the argument that he
Yeah.
should be foreperson.
Yeah. Because Arizona doesn't pick the foreperson, right? Like we saw in Karen Reed, Bev chose the foreperson. It's
As
like,
far as I know, the jurors pick their own foreperson.
yeah. Does he seem like personality types? Like, he seems like a type A personality? Like he'd be like, I'm going to be the foreperson, and you guys are going to fall in line, or is it somebody else? Kind of like, what do you think?
No, yeah, he's definitely leans type A. He
Yeah.
definitely does. Yeah.
All right. And we won't
Well,
know that until they read the verdict. We won't know
right,
who the foreperson is until they read the verdict. So,
right,
all right.
exactly.
Oh, okay. That'll be something in our chat. We'll do a vote. Who do you think the foreperson will be when we get to that point in time? We'll do a poll. So
Hey, I wonder if the rest of the jurors don't hate him for causing so much trouble already.
they may, yeah, because they're taking it seriously. I mean, do they think he is or isn't? Yeah, I don't know. See, now that would be the interview, is to have like 5 or 6, well, however many we could get, talk about juror 15. So tell us about your experience with juror 15.
Yeah,
That would be the interview.
yeah. Any interview with any juror, and I'm trying to figure out, now that we're where we are in the trial,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out how you even request an interview with a juror. Like, do you wait
Uh,
outside? Do you wait outside the courtroom and spring on them the first chance you get?
I would say definitely talk to Nate on that one. Nate seems to right. He always seems to have an interview with
Oh, that's a
jurors.
good question. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
and
And I
witnesses for that matter. Yeah, ask
right,
Nate. Yeah,
yeah, good idea. Very good
or
idea.
yeah, or Gigi or whoever else is there that
Yeah,
you feel comfortable asking.
Gigi may be flying back. She may not. I mean,
Hmm.
the fact that they're just doing jury instructions tomorrow and it may not be open to the public, she may be headed back. But if she is there next week, I will ask her for sure.
Okay.
All right. So after that fun encounter outside of the men's restroom, not inside of it, we get back in the courtroom. Jury comes in, and the projector isn't working.
Yep, we saw that. We were part of that.
And we have the thing to note here is we have a new courtroom assistant. Like Judge Boreski has his regular courtroom assistant, and she is a boss. She knows everything. She knows how to get the jury where they're supposed to be. She knows how to talk to the public and tell them they need to be quiet during certain times. And she knows how to do the jury selection. Like, she was running that microphone all over the place during jury selection.
Right.
and she's his regular assistant because she was over in his regular courtroom when we were over there for pretrial hearings. But anyway, she's not there in the afternoon. So there's this new gal. She doesn't know how to turn the projector on. So they have to call in the tech guy. Tech guy comes in and he pushes like 3 buttons. He's like, there you go. Like, oh, you
Before we
need,
go on, I just wanted
yeah.
because I made a note of this. So the judge talked about proposed jury instructions before the jury came in, and then he said you can wait until the actual start, and then people started to laugh. Do you remember that? It was like right after lunch, right before the jury came back in. Like
Say
people,
that again.
he talked about proposed jury instructions, right? And then he said you can wait until the actual start, and then people kind of laughed. I didn't hear what he said after that. People kind of chuckled. Do you remember there was like
Mm.
a moment where the gallery laughed?
I do remember the laugh. I don't remember what he said to
Okay.
cause that laugh.
All right. All I have is you can wait until the actual start, and then it kind of yeah. All right. Anyway. All
Yeah, I
right.
missed that.
Sorry
I
to
missed that.
interrupt. Okay.
No, you're. I remember the laugh, and I don't remember why. Did you catch the laugh this morning with Detective Duncan, or was it maybe they weren't airing that yet? So he
No.
goes before Duncan came up to testify. So it
Mhm.
was after he called the jury in, and the jury was working their way to coming in. They weren't like getting seated yet. They hadn't come in the side door, and the judge looked at Detective Duncan and he goes, "Are you going to throw up on the stand?" And
Oh.
he goes, I might need a bag. And the judge goes, well, if you have to throw up, just turn away from my direction.
Gee, wow. No, we missed that altogether.
Yeah,
That was not on the record.
yeah. Judge has a sense of humor. He does.
Wow.
If we got to throw up, just don't do it in my direction.
All right. So it was confirmed that it was some kind of flu stomach thing. It wasn't like a
Yeah,
cold or
right,
yeah.
right.
All right.
And then when we dismissed for the day, I go over to the elevators,
Mhm.
and there's a packed elevator. It can fit a couple more people, and Detective Duncan goes into that elevator. I'm like, I'm not going in that elevator.
Yeah. No, no, no.
Not gonna do it.
Yep. Yep. Good call. Good call.
Yeah,
That's when you kind of look at your watch, you look down at your feet, you're like,
right,
yeah, no,
exactly.
no, I'm
Yeah,
good.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm tweeting or something right now. I swear I am.
Right. You guys are so
Um,
nice. Nanar, sorry to stop it, but 4.99 from Nanar. Thank you so much. And we had let me just call up real quick. I started, but Roro also with a 9.99. Thank you, Roro
oh
and
wow,
Nanar.
nice, very
You
nice.
guys, you guys are very generous tonight. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, wait, when did that happen? Thank you, Nan. Appreciate that. Okay, so they got the projector back up. The direct examination of Detective Duncan resumed. We get into more lolly time text messages on the 10th at 11:57 a.m. So this is the day before everything went down. Let's go to lunch with Mel. So Mel is Melanie Boudreau, who is Lori's niece, who is married to Brandon Boudreau at the time. Um, Come to my house and Mel will meet us here. Okay. So they're planning lunch together. Lori and Alex are really close. Like based on these text messages, like at times she'll
Mhm.
say, I need you. I need you to be really close to me. I mean, like, and Adam testified they were oddly close. Isn't that what he said?
Oh, yeah, like the last year, year and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were oddly close.
And
Yeah.
these text messages bear that out. Like this
Yeah.
strikes me as a little more than typical brother sister. Like I'm really
Mhm.
close to my little sister, and I've spent a lot of time with her in Florida, and nothing like this. Like
Mhm.
nothing like this. This is
Yeah.
just bizarre. It's odd.
Yeah.
Um,
My takeaway from today was that everything that Adam said was confirmed through these text messages. Like everything Adam said. And I think at one point, um, Trina K says that it wasn't coming up, so I'm not jumping ahead. It was like it was in the morning session that it basically confirmed everything that Adam testified to. All these text messages kind of you know confirmed all of that. So
yeah.
what do you think?
Yep. I agree with that assessment.
Yeah.
So then we okay, the lunch thing with Melanie. And then on July 13th, I need you. Adam is freaking out. So that's when Adam found out that that Charles was dead on July 13th. And then on August 12th, we skip up to August 12th. So like I said, I don't have all the text messages. I tried to hit the highlights. She's at Social Security. Call me when you're done. And then on September 3rd, bad news on our brother. What's that? Z. That means he's zombified, right? Isn't that what
Yep.
you remember Z means? Okay. Really? When was that? As early as January. That explains his interest in Charles. So they're trying to say that because Charles and Adam were friends, that they both must be zombies or possessed by evil spirits.
Right.
So Ned, who was apparently possessing Charles's body at the time, according to Lori, recruited him shortly after that. This is why. So they're pissed that Adam is in on the intervention thing, and they're explaining it by zombies. Adam and Charles apparently are both now possessed by zombies. He's part of the 24. I need to do research on part of the 24. The 24.
Yeah, we need to. I wanted to find out more about that too.
So we know about the 144,000, but I had not heard of part of the 24 before. So
right.
all those in my chat who have knowledge on the 24 are welcome to put your knowledge in here, but I still want to do like an episode on that, like do some deep dive research into the 24, because obviously the 24 is evil of some kind, zombies or evil spirits or whatever it is.
Right.
Because he's part of the 24. He says that makes sense. Wow. Guess who is the final zombie of the 24? Is it Pops or Brandon? It's Zach. And Zach is Adam's son, right? That Zach?
That's who it came out to be. Yeah, because we weren't sure which Zach it was, but ultimately it comes out that it was, Adam's son. Yep.
She says, think of Judas, who loved me completely, then turned against me. When? About the time he turned. That makes sense. He being dedicated to Brandon and Ned. So February. Yep.
So what do you think? I have notes. I'm sorry. I have notes that saying, first of all, I just want to say thank you to Shore Life for the $5 donation. Appreciate that. Yes, our sweet Zach, he is in paradise, the real Zach. It finally makes sense. So why would she say he's in paradise? Because Zach was alive.
But what if, okay, but she claims that when these evil spirits inhabit the bodies, the original spirits exit the body and go to another place.
Okay.
So maybe she's saying when the evil spirit inhabited Zach's body and he became a zombie, the original spirit of Zach went up into paradise.
Gotcha. All right.
Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And Yarnwork, I see your question and I started because I definitely want to ask that question as well. We'll get to that.
Okay. So how did Zach die? Was he forced out? It's crazy, I know, but it's scribble notes. Oh, but it's sad and true. Now we know all 24. So I got to know about this 24. I got to know about it.
And right before that, Alex asks, how did Zach die, or was he forced out? Lori says, it's crazy, I know, but it's sad, true. Yeah, it's sad, true. Now we know all of 24.
Yes.
And growing up and studying Mormonism, LDS, did you run across 24 at all, or was it just not?
I know nothing about it.
Wow.
I know nothing about it.
All right. Maybe Northwest knows, because Northwest has a lot of knowledge. We got to ask maybe tomorrow. Well, whatever. Yeah. No. Okay. So do some research. Maybe Kresha. Would Kresha know, or like who?
I bet she would. And she and I are due to do our part 5 of our Glenn Pace memo series.
Right.
We're overdue. And it's funny because she said on one of her streams recently, she's like, Lori's always interrupting these things. She's like, it's like every April. And I think it is like 3 Aprils in a row she's been like on trial for murder
Right.
or had hearings.
That's funny. Madly in Love with Jesus says 24 who they have deleted. I hope not. And then also Shirley Roth. Did anyone find a list of 24? Is this their own little club, or is this truly something that was in scripture somewhere? Because I don't know. Well, Joe will put you on the case. Oh, here we go. Nanar in the Bible, 24 is often associated with completeness, divine authority, and the representatives of the redeemed. Okay. But
But
in
this
this
these
case,
are these are evil 24.
yeah. In this case, it's not completeness or divine authority. Good post, but
That's a good reference, yeah.
nope, you got that from Google. So good one, but maybe they twisted everything, right? They twisted everything, so
Yes,
maybe.
absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, wait, Drunky the Bear, that's a good one. Maybe it's 24 with Kiefer Sutherland. I used to watch that show. Do you remember that 24? Do
Oh, yeah,
you
right.
remember that?
Yep. That was like a Homeland Security type of show, right?
Yeah, I loved it because of the editing, and he had like 24 hours to do whatever it was.
Right.
Yeah, I enjoyed the first season for sure. All right.
So Zach was forced out,
Yes.
and something else took his place, and he became a Z. Then we get into Summer and Lori's texts on July 10th. So this is the day before. This is when Adam flies into town and Charles flies into town. They both flew into town the same day, July 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Mom is in the car with Adam and Zach, and we know that Zach was staying with her mom
Mm-hmm.
and dad,
Mm-hmm.
Barry, and oh gosh, I forgot her name. Anyway, so she got in the car with Zach, drove to Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, picked up Adam, and drove back. On the way home, she wanted to know if she should confront him. So everybody is talking about this intervention that
Mm-hmm.
Charles has planned with
Mm-hmm.
Adam.
Yep.
And Adam and Charles both said that they didn't tell anybody about it.
They
So
kept it.
how did
They
they
kept.
find out about it?
Yeah.
Like who's
They
spilling the beans?
they kept it secret. And Summer gets in there as well. There was text from her. Lori knows there. Oh, that's what this
That's
is.
what we're
Lori.
going through now. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how it got out.
So do we confront him as a preemptive strike? I told her no, just collect information. So they're strategizing. And then this is from Mimi. Adam thinks Melanie left for Utah today. Um, Adam thinks Melanie left for Utah today. So Melanie is his niece also. Yeah, that's Lori's niece and his niece.
Mm-hmm.
Um, her mother is deceased. I remember that. Of course, it's best that he believed that. I just left it at that. So we learn later that not only Adam believed that he left for Utah, but Brandon believes that she's leaving for Utah to go to a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I'm not really sure how that plays into the conspiracy thing, because why does where Melanie's at and if she's sick or not and if she's going to a wedding or not,
Mm-hmm.
how does that play into the conspiracy? Just food for thought while we go through some of these texts.
Right.
They're headed to Mimi's house. I assume Mimi is mom, is grandma.
Yeah. That's the way
Is,
I took it. Yeah.
yeah. And then Adam and Zach are going to go to the 420 showing of Spider-Man and something else. And then JJ left his wrist brace and his ukulele,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. I caught that too. JJ played a ukulele. I could only imagine what that sounded like.
Right? Like,
That's
and
pretty cool.
imagine as somebody with autism who found an outlet and something that calmed him and was therapy for him. That's awesome.
He
I
probably
love that.
rocked that ukulele.
Yeah. I'm going to ask Kresha and anybody else that will answer me if there's any video of him playing that ukulele, because that would be awesome.
That would be really cool. Yeah, for sure.
All right. I'm going to check chat just real quick. Just dipping in.
Sure. Denny
Line.
Dawn, is it true that Lori's mom passed away? Saw that in another chat. Not as far as I know. She was on the witness list, so I'm pretty sure she's still alive.
Yeah,
Neat.
I have
Yeah.
not heard anything about that.
Sarcasm says you're a Mimi. Cool. Oh, this is interesting. Kikaru, JJ no doubt learned the ukulele in Hawaii. Yeah, good point.
Oh, yeah, right.
Pammy, it may have brought him peace. Absolutely. Music soothes the savage beast. You know, music can heal. Music can bring people together. You know.
Drunky the Bear. My son has autism, and that helps fuel.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Right. Ugh.
Agreed.
So Drunky, one of the things that has made me the angriest in this trial is when we learned that Kay asked for JJ to come to Charles's funeral or memorial because he had been cremated, so it was a memorial.
Mm-hmm.
And Lori said, "Nope, I'm just really busy, and he's coming with me to Hawaii."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That made me almost the angriest that I have been in this, because weeks after that, we know that she took his life was taken in a horrific way, and all she had to do was pass him off to Kay and Larry.
Yep.
Kay and Larry loved that child. They
Mm-hmm.
loved him, and they cared for him, and they adored him, and they didn't at first want to agree to the adoption by Charles and Lori. They did
Mm-hmm.
give in to that. They said they're a younger couple, maybe they can keep up better.
Yeah.
But all she had to do was just say, JJ is kind of
Yeah.
JJ's kind of difficult, and I'm having a difficult time dealing with him. Kay and Larry, just take him for a while,
Yep. Yep.
and that made me the angriest that I've been in this trial when I heard that.
Yep. Yeah. There's not one redeeming quality about her.
No. All right, more text messages. I lost my place with Summer. This is still with Summer.
Yeah.
Summer says she's not feeling well or something. Would you rather stay here? So Lori is saying, would you rather stay here at my house at Four Peaks this week? We can tell Zach. Oh, no. It's the other way around. Summer saying, would you rather stay here this week, to Lori in my house? And we can tell Zach that we put the dog in a kennel.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam and Zach eventually stayed there. Like the first night they stayed at Mimi's, but then I think after that first night they moved over to Summer's house to watch the dog.
After their blow up. After the blow up.
Yes.
Yep. And Zeus is the dog. We find out Summer's dog is Zeus.
Right. So is that a Rottweiler? Is that a pit bull? Or is that a Chihuahua? A Pomeranian, maybe.
Right. I don't know. I don't know Summer well enough to know which way she would go.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah.
All right. So then we get into July 9th. So we're going back in time one day. Lori and Melanie Boudreau, Lori's niece. I need to talk to you ASAP. I'll call you in 5. I need to find out what to do. Okay. I took the kids to the temple. They're chasing the bunnies. Like,
oh,
there's
I don't remember
bunnies. There's bunnies at the temple,
right?
Yeah, she says I took the kids to the temple. They are chasing the bunnies. That's bizarre to me.
I totally missed that. I don't have that at all. Okay.
Maybe there's wild bunnies out in the grass, like around the temple, and they just like chase the wild bunnies. I don't think they cultivate like domestic rabbits at the Mormon temples. I've never heard of that before. You can't go tomorrow. It's a setup for both of us. I'm still on the phone finding out the details. So they're talking about a setup. This is the intervention setup. Okay. Who's she on the phone with? I want to know who she's on the phone with, finding out the details of the setup. They have the records. Why don't we see the records for that? Who she's on the phone with, finding out the details of the setup.
Hmm.
They have an elaborate plan. It's coming to the head. This week will change everything. And it did. She says, you can lay at my house if you need somewhere to go, or you can stay at my house if you need somewhere to go. Are Adam and Charles coming? They both come tonight. Melanie pretends to be sick for Lori, and she's pretending to Brandon to be making plans to fly to a wedding, I believe in Utah, if I remember right. And Melanie says she's not feeling well, and Lori offers her a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
And Melanie says, is Charles there? She says, no, Al is here. Alex is here. Charles will come over in the morning. So Melanie goes to Lori's house, apparently for a blessing of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
And do we know what happens to Melanie after that? I don't. And I'm not sure why Trina was making a big deal about Melanie pretending to be sick. Like, how does that fit into the conspiracy to kill Charles?
I have Melanie is playing sick to distract Brandon, because Brandon was a part of.
Oh, a part of the intervention. Okay.
Intervention.
Okay.
So that's it's obtuse, but it's still distract Brandon because he's part of the Adam, Charles, Brandon intervention thing. So distract him, get
but
him
if
out of the
she's
way.
but if she's telling him she's going to fly out of town, then that actually frees him up to participate in an intervention. So it's kind of not making sense to me. Oh, so did she tell him a while ago that she was flying out of town to a wedding, and maybe there actually was a wedding, and now she's trying to change the plans to be out of town so she can stay in town, and she can say, oh, I'm sick, I can't go to the wedding, I need you to take care of me, so he can't participate in the intervention. Okay, that makes sense. That makes logical sense.
Yeah. Yep.
Not that everything does in this.
No. But we have to make it make sense where we can, and I think that sounds right to me.
Oh, I've got more new people in chat. I love it. Hi, Vicky. Hi, Madly. Thank you for joining chat. And then next, we're going to get into more text messages on the date on July 11th. Let me say hi real quick.
Mm-hmm. Let me know if you want me to pull up anything. Or
no, we're
Aaron.
Good.
Okay.
My chat is lagging a little bit. I think I got it though. Oh, sure. Snap. I had to reset. Oh, YouTube.
What happened?
You and yours. So every once in a while in my Chrome browser, YouTube will just like crash and it says, oh snap, something went wrong. And I have to like reboot it totally from scratch, which I just had to do, which is fine. Okay. So on July 11th, Zach is here. So this is still Melanie. This is still Melanie to Lori. Zach is here. He pretended to come and pick up his mail, and he told us, and I don't have anything after that. But what I do note about this text message is it was sent at 7:48 a.m., which is 1 minute before Lori left with Charles' phone from the Four Peaks address. And that message wasn't read until either 1:28 or 1:38, which was after Lori got back to the Four Peaks place from the police department. So Melanie sent her a text that she never read in the moment until after they had been done dealing with the police that morning. Mm-hmm. Then we learn on July 11th in messages that we can't read, all we can see that there were messages that were sent and received that morning. At 6:06 a.m., Chad sent a message to Lori. Lori replied 6 minutes later at 6:12 a.m. Chad sent one to Lori at 7:01 a.m. and then another one at 7:33 a.m. This was 2 minutes, almost identical to the exact same time that Charles showed up at the house. That Chad sent a text message to Lori.
Yep.
Oh, if we could only read that text message.
I know.
And so then we go ahead. No, you had something.
No, I was going to say, Roro, I think that's going to you. That's a $9.99 over to you. So thank you for that, Roro.
Is that really?
Yeah.
Roro, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very generous. Thank you, Roro. Thank you for pulling that up.
Sure. Chad was not in Arizona at that time, right? He was not. He's back in Idaho.
In
Isn't he?
Rexburg. Yeah, I
Rexburg,
think he's back in Rexburg. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he's there.
And then there's a bunch of text messages and phone calls after the murder happened between Chad and Lori. A couple of very lengthy phone calls, I think 30 minutes and 50 minutes or something like that. I couldn't write them all down. I couldn't keep up. But then Trina starts getting into the romantic relationship.
As I'll call it, she says, Chad wrote, I'll call it a romantic story.
Right.
The way she said it, she's like, I'll call it.
Right.
Yeah.
We get into James and Elena.
Yep.
Which were very promiscuous, is how she worded it. Messages between Chad and Lori. So they wrote like soft porn messages to each other.
Right. Just makes
and
it
they
all
used
more disgusting.
they used so disgusting. They used James and Elena as pseudonyms for Chad and Lori. James and Elena. Wonder how they came up with that.
I don't know. Where did they come up with Ned?
Right?
Ned and Elena. I mean, Raphael, I can get, right? Because I think eventually, right, Chad brings in Raphael, but James and Elena? Ned?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
Interesting.
Yep.
But included in those stories, in those soft porn stories, those USA late night stories, up at night. Remember when Gilbert Gottfried used to do those up at night, late night USA?
I don't. I mean, I know who Gilbert is. I just don't quite remember that.
Yeah, that was back in the early days of cable TV, like mid to late 80s.
Okay. Maybe that's why I didn't have cable back then.
We had barely got it. Barely got it. Anyway, so those stories actually mention specifically Adam and Brandon and Ned. So they're kind of smart for disguising their names, but they forgot to disguise everybody else's.
Right.
We're not going to say anything about Chad and Lori, but here's Brandon and here's Ned and here's Adam.
Right.
So how did Adam and Brandon find out? So more text messages between Chad and Lori. How did Adam and Brandon find out? My mom was mad. Okay. So when I first saw that my mom was mad, I'm like, she's mad that Charles is dead. No, she's not mad that Charles is dead. She's not.
Yeah.
She got mad at Adam. He was defensive. She kicked him out. She was mad that Adam was a participant in this intervention thing, is what she was mad at.
Yep.
She found out that he was participating in the intervention to confront Lori about her weird beliefs. And nobody else in Lori's family, except for Adam, recognized those as weird beliefs. They're like, she's just like on some temporary thing. She's going to work her way out of it. We don't need to confront her. We don't need to talk to her about it. Just let it work its way out. Let it run its course.
Yep. And that's exactly what Adam said, that they had a dust up. He went over, they had a dust up, and mom got mad and kicked him out. And that's when he and Zach went to Summer's house.
Yeah.
And nothing about
And
dad, right? Nothing about dad
no,
getting,
I have not heard anything about Barry in this. Like,
yeah.
Lori mentioned his name today, but she
Mm,
did it in the context of, did you check with Barry to see what my text messages might have meant? And we didn't see any text messages with Barry, so that
mhm,
wasn't even applicable.
right.
Like, she mentioned his name, but in a totally irrelevant way.
Yep.
And then we get into these are my exact notes. Icky, gross, lovey-dovey text between Chad and Lori.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it.
Uh, then they
Uh,
did it. Then they did a clearing of the Houston house. Um, and there was also a text in there that Trina said out loud that I wish I hadn't heard. Cheek to cheek, loin to loin.
yep.
Mm.
uh,
So then there were a bunch of text messages like all the way through July 18th. So this is literally the week after Charles is shot to death in their house by her brother. And she's
mhm,
having all of these text messages. I wonder if the jury is going to like be as impacted by that as we are right now.
yeah.
Like, we know all of the background behind it, so it is incredibly disgusting and
Mhm,
evil, and like, we have no words. I have no words. Well, I
yeah.
just said some words. I guess I do have some words, but will the jury be as impacted by how disgusting this is? So on July 18th, so I talked to the insurance company. He changed it in March, so it's probably Ned before we got rid of him. We've seen that text before. But I am going to get $4,000 from Social Security a month. I am going to get.
Mhm,
I am going to get. No, half of that is JJ's girl.
yep.
And the other half is you as mother in care of a survivor.
Yep.
Anyway, she thought that was her 4,000 a month.
Did we get to the part where she says that he didn't leave JJ anything, or that's coming
Yes,
up?
that's that. So it's probably Ned before more. No, that's coming up.
Okay.
That's coming up. We're almost there.
Okay.
Minutes away.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
there it is. I see it now. Yep. Yep.
yep. And then they have more affirmations of love between the two
Mhm,
of them in their text messages. A week after her husband is shot to death. Affirmations of love.
mhm,
Then we get back to the Lolly Time iCloud account. She has a contact in her Lolly Time iCloud account that she has mentioned or labeled as Melanie 2. So
mhm,
it's pretty innocuous, right? It's her
mhm.
second contact for either her friend Melanie Gibb or her niece Melanie Boudreau, right?
Right. Yep.
Can't be anything wrong with that.
Mhm,
Oh no, wait, the phone number associated with that is Chad's phone number.
mhm.
Melanie 2 is not Melanie, it's Chad.
Mhm.
And there is a message on there that says, and it includes a photograph. I took a photo with Alan Osmond. Is that the right name? Yeah, Alan Osmond.
Must be.
So
Yep.
Alan Osmond has to be one of the descendants of like Donnie and Marie, right? They're like the famous Mormons, Donnie and Marie. So it's got to be like a son, grandson. Probably based
Oh,
on the age, it's got to be a grandson of
right.
Donnie and Marie. Well, Donnie
Right.
and Marie were brother and sister, so not literally their grandson.
Let's hope
But
not.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, for Mark, and they pull the picture up, and it's a picture of Chad with Alan
Mhm.
Osmond. Do you recognize Chad? Yes. So this is Chad's account. Melanie 2 is Chad. It's not Melanie. Um, in the next text message from that account or to that account that I have is, I just got a letter from the insurance company. It's a spear through the heart. I'm
Mhm.
not the beneficiary. She
Right.
said it's a spear through the heart. And that's when she says he left nothing for JJ.
Right.
Was that really the spear through her heart that he left nothing for JJ?
Yep.
Because we know that he made Kay the beneficiary,
Mhm.
and he gave specific instructions on how he wanted that, including taking care of JJ, who wasn't around, I think probably by the time that got figured out, JJ wasn't around anymore because it was just a couple months later. But
Mhm.
the people that were still around to be benefited by that, like Charles had a couple of other sons. Kay did make right. She did distribute that according to Charles' wishes.
Yeah, of course she did, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, but a spear through the heart left nothing for JJ, but I will check his computer on Sunday when I get it back. She wants to know when it was changed and who he changed it to. She's going to check his computer. At some point in time, they one of them mentions the Gadiantans.
Yeah. Yeah, what's the deal with them?
That's a Mormon reference to a particular like secret sect of warriors that do
Okay.
like religious warrioring,
Okay.
like the Knights of the Templar type of thing, but
Gotcha.
with Mormonism.
Mhm.
Um, and Detective Duncan didn't know what the Gadians were off the top of his head, and was asked about that. Said, I don't remember off the top of my head. And then Chad, oh my god,
Yeah, this
no,
is yeah.
I'm struck by the fact that talking to Annie, she's like, the what made these people think that they could start criming and just be dumb criminals in the midst of their criming?
Mhm.
Like, what made them think that they're smart enough to pull it off? Um, yeah,
Yeah. Hubris,
that's it.
narcissism, ego, all, Thank God, I always say this. Thank God that that criminals are,
Right.
stupid at one point and they make a mistake, because if they weren't, we'd all be in a lot more trouble than than we are. Thank God they
Yeah.
do get caught.
And this is one of those moments right here.
Yep.
Chad says, I wonder if it, being the life insurance policy beneficiary, got changed after he had two bullets in his heart.
Mhm.
Lori goes, no, you can't change it after the date of death. They
Yeah.
check on that.
Yeah.
Did you not think about what you were saying, Chad? Like, ah,
I
God,
know. I know. No words. No
yeah.
words.
Then we see Exhibit 233. This is the wedding summary of their wedding in Hawaii on November 5th, 2019. And
Mhm.
it was Chad Daybell to Lori Ryan.
Yep. Sweet Hawaii Wedding was the name of the certificate.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm sitting next to Joe Ryan's sister at the time when this comes up.
Mhm.
And I can't imagine that this was easy for her to see that Lori was using that name to marry Chad Daybell at that time.
Right.
Because I mean, Joe Ryan has been deceased for many years at this point,
Right.
and they used Chad's Rexburg, Idaho address on that.
Mhm. Yep.
Anyway, okay, so at 2:43, at on June of 2020, he became the case agent on this case. Time on the scene. So we're on cross.
This is cross. Yeah.
Yes, at
Yep.
2:43 we begin cross. I should write that in my notes. Hold on.
All right. I'm going to let him out. I know he probably was just let in, but this is what he does. Aaron lets him in, then he comes back here and he meows. All right,
He
hang on there.
wasn't let
Hang on there, buddy.
in or out properly. You have to let
Hang
them in
on.
and out properly.
I know. Out you go.
All right.
It's like every night, right? He's done that every night. He's
All
so
right.
cute.
Cross at 2:43 p.m. begins. June of 2020, he became the case agent. So she asks her typical questions. When did you take over your role in this? How long did you spend on the scene? How long have you spent on the case? She asks about the search warrant. Did you go in before the search warrant? And he says, no, absolutely. I did not ever go in before the search warrant. Was it before Charles left in the ambulance?
Mm-hmm.
Lori, he didn't leave in the ambulance. You were there.
Yeah.
Until you got taken to the police station. I wonder if she was there when his body got taken away by the medical examiner's office. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe she was at the police station.
She was there, I think it was like around 9:30ish, going by the timestamp because we watched her interview and then Tylee's. I think it was like 9:37, something. I say 9:30. So
maybe she wasn't there then when they took his body away, because
I'm
she
thinking,
sounded surprised that
yeah,
his body wasn't taken away by the ambulance.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Not a good look for her that she didn't know, but
Right.
still not her fault necessarily if she wasn't there to know and witness
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, she said at one point, so I'm still confused. So it was at the house and not the station for interviews, and she was trying to, she was confused during this part. Right before Charles never went in an ambulance, he went in the medical examiner. I guess because she was testifying, and judge is like, just ask the question.
Right.
So she was a little confused during this part. Did you find her? I have a note coming up. She was talking fast and high. I mean, she was very agitated and very nervous. I thought. Did that come across to you?
I didn't note it particularly here, but she was up and down all day. Like she was fast and slow. She was like confident, and then she was timid. She was all over the board today. So I didn't note it particularly at this time.
I thought with Duncan, she was talking fast. I'm trying to think if have you read all of the reports? The DNA was never tested. Why not? What did you do differently? Like she just seemed like she was.
I think that was part of her acting the lawyer and trying to be more like forceful in her questions. Like, hey, these are things that you should have known. Why didn't you know this? Why didn't you check this? Why didn't you investigate this? Like she was trying to be more dramatic as a lawyer in those moments, I think.
Yeah.
Because she knows that, like, if this is the last state's witness, this is her last hurrah. Like this cross-examination is it for her.
This is it. She was definitely attacking the detective madly in love, for sure. Yeah, Butterfly. She was mad today. She was there was lots of times. Yeah, there was lots of times. Yeah, she was very angry. Short life. She was definitely. I think even in our chat they were like saying, objection, or maybe even Trina may have said objection, combative or whatever. I'll as we go through the cross, I'll see if I
argumentative.
Argumentative.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So Charles never went in the ambulance.
Right.
Take it from there.
Then she starts to get into the walkthrough. So they came back to the scene and Alex did a walkthrough through the house with the detectives. And she keeps trying to get in this testimony about the walkthrough because it's when Alex presents his self-defense argument.
Right.
And she wants that in. And Alex isn't here to present that in person. He's not here. So how are we going to get that in? We're going to get it in through the detectives who did the walkthrough with him and heard him doing that. But you know what? That's hearsay.
Right.
That's not evidence that she can present in court.
Yep.
But but if one of the detectives was wearing a body cam, that's public information, and she could submit a request for that, and she could enter that as evidence because that's a public records request response. Look at what we find out in a minute. Who was the walkthrough with? It was like Werther and Coons and Moffat and me. That's Duncan and the crime scene tech. Detective Werther had a body cam, but something malfunctioned with it, and it didn't capture it. Imagine that.
Imagine that. Yep.
Imagine that. I can't believe she didn't make more of a big deal of that.
Right.
Seriously, one of your detectives had on a body camera and it just malfunctioned just for that particular walkthrough.
Yep.
Like, it gives me doubts. It honestly does. Like, it just magically malfunctioned that day for that walkthrough because that's a key piece of evidence in the self-defense case.
Right. Yep.
Objection asked and answered. Objection relevance. Objection hearsay. Stricken. Well, not stricken, but sustained.
One was objection relevance, hearsay, ask and answer, and he's like, "I'll sustain it on hearsay."
Right. Yeah.
Trina's just
Let me
like,
pick
ask
one of
answer,
them.
relevance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a cryptic note. Oh, the bat.
Yeah. I was going to say, now they get into the DNA, why they didn't test the prints and the bat and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
They found. God, I got to complete my notes. It's funny because there are pages of my notes that are really neat, and there are pages of my notes that I can't read.
Yeah, it happens.
There were 2 prints that were found that were not identifiable. Correct. Did you test the DNA on the bat? No, it wasn't tested. Why did you not test that? Because we didn't feel it had probative value. Because if we had found Charles' DNA on it, he was someone who is known to have been associated with the bat at some point in time, based on our knowledge of the purpose of the purchase of the bat. And if it had Alex's DNA on it, if it had your DNA on it, if it had Tylee's DNA on it, that wouldn't have told us anything, just that somebody had touched it at some point in time. And he said not during the altercation. I would have said not necessarily during the altercation.
Right.
That's a good point.
Yep. Yeah, I thought that was. I thought that was good. Yep.
Just because you find DNA on something doesn't mean that it happened at the time that the defense is saying that it happened, which we'll get to in a minute.
Right.
Somebody touched the bat sometime. There was no visible blood on the bat. Well, she says, don't you want to figure out what happened? Why didn't you test the DNA on the bat? Like, wouldn't you want to know everything about that bat to know what happened?
Right.
Wouldn't you want to know all of the information, specifically exactly what she said? Wouldn't you want to know all of the information? And then this is, I think, her best point of the day, and it is objected to and it's stricken, but she gets it in. The jury hears it. And you can tell the jury to disregard it, but the jury heard it already.
Yep.
You can't unring the bell.
Yep.
She says, wouldn't Charles's DNA on the bat prove that he took it from Tylee, just like she said in her interview?
Yep.
That's she can't get in Tylee's interview, but she got in Tylee's interview.
Yep.
Objection. Move to strike. Judge says jury disregard. But can they really disregard that? They've heard it.
Too late. Yep. Yeah. We hear that almost in every trial where somebody gets in something and it's stricken and it's like, yep, nope. If anything, the jury's going to be like, what? Why was that stricken? Why are we not allowed to hear that? At least that's the way I take it. I pay more attention to that than less attention.
I think that's how juror 15 took it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If I was, yeah, hey, if I was a juror, I'd be like, "Where's?" Like I said at the top of the show, "Where's Tylee? She's got to be 22 at this point. Where is she? Why aren't we hearing from her?"
Yeah. All right. Then we get into the testing of the gun. Why did you wait so long to test the gun? You've had it in your possession
Mhm.
since July 11th of 2019. Why did you wait until February of 2025? And he makes a good point. I'll give him this point. He's like, we don't know if trials are going to go, or we don't know if cases are going to go to trial, and we don't know if trials are going to happen. So
Mhm.
generally, I don't like to create extra work, so I'm going to wait until the last minute to actually ballistically test that. So that's a
Mhm.
decent argument, but in a homicide case, and you're trying to figure out what actually happened and who
Mhm.
actually did what,
Mhm.
that's not a viable argument to me. It's
Yeah.
not. It's just not. We have ballistics experts for a reason. We have people who test that for a reason. And when you're trying to figure out what happened, you don't fit the evidence to your belief of what happened, to what somebody told you what happened. Alex said he did it in self defense. Okay, we don't need to ballistically test the gun. We don't
Mhm.
need to test the gun for DNA. We don't
Mhm.
need to luminol test the gun. They made the decision not to do that. Why?
Yeah. No
Did they
probative
have
value, right? Didn't he say no probative value?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly what he said. The same with the
Yep.
bat.
Yep.
Yeah. He literally said, we just made the decision that it wasn't worth it.
Yep. They went off of Charles. Charles admitted it, and they went
Or
off of his
Alex.
story. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Alex admitted it, and they went off of his story, his version of the story, and then they interviewed Tylee and they interviewed Lori, and they both corroborated that, and then that was it. They went off of people's accounts.
Yeah.
Why didn't they?
They
Why didn't
didn't
they say they were
they didn't
lying, or they could they be lying? Let's check. Let's see where the evidence leads us.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the biggest.
What if there was DNA from a fourth or a fifth or a sixth person on that bat?
Yeah,
Like, what if it's somebody completely different and they're covering up for somebody that's completely different? You know,
sure.
what if Melanie B shot Charles to death and
Right,
her DNA is on that gun?
right.
I'm
Yep.
just like, I'm putting that out there. They don't know, we don't know, because they didn't collect and test all of those things. And Lori makes that point coming up in the very near future.
Yep.
So also, why wasn't the other projectile tested? So they tested the one that was in the baseboard. They
Mm,
didn't test the one that was loose on the floor.
mm,
What's up with that?
yeah.
You have two projectiles and you test one out of two. Is
Yeah.
50% of the evidence sufficient to test?
Yeah. No. Yep.
She says, Charles, sure it wasn't tested. Alex's phone, was it examined, extracted? No. We got the call detail records from his service provider. So they didn't even get a search warrant for Alex's phone. Alex admitted that he shot somebody to death and they did not take his phone for extraction.
Yeah.
Um, wouldn't that be crucial information in your investigation? She asks. And Duncan's response was, well, that was Moffat's call. And Moffat, interviewed Alex and he decided that he didn't need to take his gun.
Yep.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
Um, so would you have taken his gun? Yes, I would have taken his gun if it were me. Would you call that an oversight on Moffat's behalf? And here Trina objects on speculation. And I object to that objection. That's not speculation. That's
Mm,
professional. That's one professional making an opinion about another professional's actions in an investigation.
mhm.
If you take over a case from a professional and they made oversights in their investigation, that's not speculation to say that they made an oversight.
Right.
That's professional opinion. He is an expert in the investigation as the eventual case agent on this case. That's not speculation. That's professional opinion. And he's being called to the stand as a professional and being asked about his professional opinion.
Yeah. Good point.
There's so many of them today.
Right.
And so I have a few more. I put miscellaneous questions that don't really strike me as important. And then we take a break a little bit after 3. Do you have anything in there between that and the break?
Just oversight, the extraction. Yeah. Yeah. No. I think we're good.
All right. I did not see juror number 15 on the afternoon break.
He's keeping a low profile now. Yeah, you pinned him out.
Right. Oh no. You better not be watching tonight. Juror 15, I want an interview, buddy. When we're done.
Right.
All right. So we take the break, and then the judge admonishes Lori. He says that witnesses can't testify as to what's in another witnesses, as in law enforcement officials, can't testify as to what's in another police officer's report because that's hearsay.
Mm-hmm.
So police reports are not admissible evidence in a trial or in court. They're hearsay. You can only testify as to what's in your report.
Right.
Then she asks about Kay and Summer and Barry. Kay. I have Kay in there. I don't remember that.
It was her mom. Did you interview my mom? Did you interview my father? That part? That's
yes.
Right. Yeah.
So, mom.
I thought this was fairly effective the way she asked it too.
Yes.
Like I thought her pacing, right? I thought her pacing was pretty good at this part.
She says, regarding my family, my mom, Summer, Barry, did you ask any of them and Melanie, including Melanie, what the text messages meant? And no, I didn't. And then there's a discussion about the text messages about Adam. Objection, it's compound. Objection, form of the question. Oh, so she mentions these text messages about my estranged brother. So she words it that she's kind of testifying that her brother is estranged, even though that's not been an established fact at this point, right?
Right.
So Trina objects to it, objects to the form of the question, estranged brother. So how many police interviews did you were there with Summer? I don't know. There was at least one. Did you form an opinion and stick to it and investigate only those things that supported your opinion? No, of course I didn't. But yeah, I don't think I wrote down enough notes about her asking him about interviewing her family about their text messages amongst themselves. Like, how do you know? How are you interpreting what we're texting amongst ourselves if you didn't ask us what we meant by these texts? You're just assuming that we meant whatever you said they mean. And I'm going to get to a point about that in a second because that's a big point to me.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, we get into the story of Nephi.
Right. Yep.
She says, how did you research the story of Nephi? He says, I did an internet search and I asked some members of the LDS church. He says the church, but you can imply the LDS church.
Right.
And he says, every member that I asked told me that story about Nephi killing King Laban. And I call bullshit on that.
Okay.
Because I could go ask 10 family members right now about who they think Nephi is and what is their favorite story about Nephi. And maybe 2 of them will say that, and 8 of them will have other stories. And Lori kind of goes down that road. There is no way that every single LDS member that he interviewed told the story about Nephi cutting off the head of King Laban. No way.
Yeah, that was definitely a question I was going to ask you, how familiar is that, and what percentage of people would say the same thing, and you just answer that. So
Yeah, it's nowhere near 100%. Nowhere near.
okay.
Um, one of the most famous stories about Nephi is the golden plates. And yes, he went back. The reason that he slew King Laban was to obtain the golden plates and take them with him to the New World in submarines that didn't have any air holes drilled in them. So
Mhm.
they crossed the entire Pacific Ocean without any air holes in their submarines.
Hmm.
Yeah, Mormons have imaginations. They do.
It's a story.
The, well, the problem is the imaginations when you suspend disbelief about something that should be common knowledge, common logic,
Hmm.
then you can suspend belief about something that's a little more serious and something that's a little more serious until
Hmm.
you end up in Chad and Lori's cult.
Yeah, that's true.
That's Melanie Gibb. That's Melanie Boudreau. That's
Hmm.
countless other people's.
Yeah.
All right. So she says, did you know that the Book of Mormon has a first Nephi, second Nephi, third Nephi, fourth Nephi? He says, no, I didn't know that. Did you do an internet search? Oh, he did an internet search and he asked about members of the church. And did you know that there are actually 4 different Nephis that are prophets in the Book of Mormon? He didn't know that.
Hmm.
I think there's an objection to that question, and the judge overrules it and allows him to answer that.
There was, yep. And then he says, "I'm sorry, I can't remember the question."
Right. And she says, I can't remember the question either.
Hmm.
And then the judge prompts her and she's like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
How many Nephis were there in the Book of Mormon? And there were 4. So isn't it true? This is a big question to me. Isn't it true that you really have no idea what I was referring to when I referenced Nephi in my text message? And do you know that killing is what I meant by Nephi in my text message? And he says no.
Hmm.
Like that she's got to attack that Nephi equals killing equals justified killing thing. And I think
Right.
that's a fairly effective question for her.
Hmm.
Um, then we get into the text messages, and she's asking him about explaining her text messages as meaning this, as meaning that, as meaning this, as meaning that.
Hmm.
And he says, well, I wasn't explaining your text messages, I was just reading them,
Right.
which is fairly accurate. But do you
Hmm.
know who was explaining the text messages? It was Trina K.
Rena, yeah.
She would ask him leading questions and she
Hmm.
would say things that were like, so in this romantic text interaction, in this romantic, she would put in words that are subjective to
Hmm.
describe the text messages between Chad and Lori and all of her other family members. She put a ton of subjective terms in there, and he would
Hmm.
just say, yes, that's true, yes, I agree.
Hmm.
She's the one that's describing and explaining it though
Hmm.
in subjective terms.
Right.
So I think Lori had a chance here to actually go at Trina K, but I think
Hmm.
she's scared of Trina K, so she didn't. And
Hmm.
maybe she just didn't see the correlation that it wasn't Detective Duncan that was testifying as to the subjective interpretation of those text messages. It was Trina K that was testifying to the subjective interpretation of those text messages.
Yeah. She may not have known how to ask that question either. She asked, were you reading it, or no, were you, yeah, what, she may not have been able to ask that question of him in order to get Trina K implicated into what she wanted. You know what I'm saying? I'm having a hard time formulating
Yeah.
that, but she may just not have been able to ask that question. Like, how
Right.
can
And
I how
and
can I spin this around?
I would have had a hard time with it too, but I
Yeah.
would have been stewing over it all over the lunch break. Like I would have been figuring it out. I would have been
Right.
like, Trina is asking, so many leading questions.
Mhm.
I'm going to catch her in some of them.
Yeah. Now I wonder, okay, at lunch break, does she like how does that work? And you may not know this, I don't expect you to, but like does she go to her advisory council and say, "Hey, is there anything I can do?" Or does the advisory council say, "Hey, you should attack this part," or "Hey, state's doing this," you know? Like I wonder how that works.
I have my questions about that because advisory council has their own room that's off to
Mhm.
the right, and she goes off to the left.
Mhm. Oh, so they're running
And
that together. They're
but
personal.
there is a hallway behind there that goes to like the judge's chambers and probably some ante rooms back there. So she can probably go around all the way around to the defense counsel's room, and she can probably spend lunch break in there. Probably, I don't know. It's
Like I would,
speculation.
yeah, I would think she'd be able to talk to her
Yeah,
counsel. I mean,
right.
right? It's not like
And
she's a
yeah,
witness.
and
She
she
can't.
has. Okay,
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
has spent breaks, including lunch breaks, talking to her advisory council. So they do
Mhm.
get together somehow,
Right.
somewhere.
So I wonder, okay, so then like I said, my question is, are they allowed to say, "Hey, you need to attack this," or are they not allowed to say that and they have to wait for her to come before they can give advice?
They have to wait for her to at least ask, "Can you
Mhm.
give me some advice how to handle this particular situation, this witness, this line of questioning,
Mhm.
can you help me on in these specific areas?"
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah,
up to her to listen.
right.
Holy cow, we're up to 97 starred messages.
I know.
Oh,
And I just want to say, therapist, chat, thanks for being so respectful to everyone amidst some potentially divisive topics. Y'all are the best. So
absolutely.
that's worth pulling up.
Lots of good peoples in here.
Yes.
All right. I said a hi to a couple people in my chat.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
I can't catch you all. I'm sorry, but thanks everybody for being in chat.
Yeah. Lily Wayne, I don't know if I'll last for 97 either.
Right?
We disclosure, we may not make it through all 97 guys. Maybe we'll only get through like a few of those. All right, let's soldier on.
All right, let's soldier on. I was just reading, I wasn't explaining. Is it your job to examine things and figure out what happened? Yes. Are you confident you have done your best? Yes. Are you really confident you've done your best? Very. So she kind of fell into that trap. Like that wasn't a good question answer for her. She maybe
Mhm.
shouldn't have gone there.
Right.
Um, so when you took over the case, did you consult with Moffat? No. He dropped the case notebook off on my desk and went on his way. And the gallery kind of chuckled at that.
Yeah.
Like,
He's like, you
I'm
just
done.
tossed it.
I'm out. I'm out. Bye bye.
Mop
See
it out.
ya. I'm out. It's all yours, bro. Have at it.
Right. Uh,
Uh,
that's nonchalant
right.
or flippant, one of the two or both.
Uh,
Yep.
all right. So then we get into luminol.
Yeah.
Did you put luminol on the bat? No, there weren't any visible blood stains on the bat. We decided not to do luminol testing. Did you do luminol testing on the gun? No, there were no visible blood on the gun.
Mhm.
We decided we didn't need to because there was no visible blood. So, riddle me this, Batman.
Yeah.
When is luminol used? It's
When you
used when
can't,
there's no visible blood,
I
right?
know that made no sense. That it made his answers made no sense. That's exactly when you do luminol is when you're trying to find when you're trying to find not visible. I was going to say unvisible. When you're trying to find not visible protein. I think he said.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah. I think she could have probed him better on this if she was like in my head or your head. Like she would
Mhm.
have been like,
Yeah.
visible blood. You didn't see visible blood, and that was your determination for not using luminol. That
Right.
should be your determination to use luminol. But
Exactly.
you show up at a scene, and the only blood is directly under the victim. There's no spatter, there's no droplets, there's no smudges or smears except on the kitchen faucet.
Hmm.
Could this maybe have been a cleaned up scene? Could it maybe
Right.
have been?
Yeah.
Shot through the heart with a 45 caliber gun,
Hmm.
and there's no spatter marks at all behind the victim
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yep. She didn't watch enough Dexter shows.
I never watched any of the Dexter, but I watch enough forensic files to know better than that.
There you go. I reference
Uh,
Dexter a lot while I'm watching trials.
yeah,
It's
it's
okay.
a little too gory for me.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Understood. Yep.
We make decisions, he says. So in other words, we just decided we weren't going to luminol test it.
Hmm.
You know, we
Yep.
make decisions. Okay, then I would have asked him, are you capable of making decisions that are not in the best interest of solving a case correctly and obtaining all of the evidence and information that you could on a case? Is that
Hmm.
possible? And he
Hmm.
can't say, no, that's not possible. I collect everything I need to every single case. I'm perfect. He
Yeah.
can't. That would have been like a huge dunk for her
Hmm.
if she'd gone down that path. But she
Yep.
didn't. She didn't probe it. He
Yep.
just said, we didn't feel like it was necessary. So then we get to redirect. She goes in, Trina goes into luminol. Once again, she says, we got to the scene. Okay, so this is another good point. We got to the scene and we believed that the murder had occurred within 5 minutes, around 5 minutes before we got there.
Hmm.
And that it was basically a clean scene
Hmm.
and that it hadn't been cleaned up. How did they arrive at that determination within minutes of showing up on the scene? It hadn't been cleaned up.
Yeah, I don't get that either.
It hadn't been. How do you know, especially if you determine that luminol isn't necessary to evaluate the scene? How do you know it hadn't been cleaned up?
Yeah.
Uh, and then they learned about the
Yeah, I'm just laughing at your sigh.
right.
Yeah.
Um, then we learned about the 47 minutes and the time gap difference. And then they talked about the DNA testing of the bat, how it wouldn't have been beneficial. And then they talked about the defect in the floor and why they didn't need to test it because it was lined up perfectly with Charles's body and the exit wound out of the body. That's why they didn't test the floor
Mm.
for traces of the projectile
Hmm.
because it was lined up perfectly. Oh, imagine if you stage a scene.
I know, right?
Imagine lining up a body perfectly with a defect in the floor. Okay, then we get to the juror questions, and I didn't write down all of them.
Oh, there was only one. Or
It was about the phone message, the
yeah.
picture of the text message, what was in the top left corner, and we learned that in the top left corner of that phone message was the actual phone time of Alex's phone, and then
Mhm.
down lower in the phone message was
Mhm.
the date and time of the actual message from Charles's phone.
Mhm. Yeah, actually there were two. There was that one and then the countertop. Do you have the
Oh, right. And I didn't hear
countertop?
the answer to the countertop.
The countertop, is that from Four Peaks? No, it is not. So
Right.
it's
So
not.
that would have been Alex's countertop
Yep.
in Santan Valley.
Yeah, I don't think he said. I don't think he said what you just said. I think he just said. I just have no. It is not. So yeah, I guess
Yeah.
the implication is yeah. No, that was at some other location, probably like you said. Um, I just want to go back to Lori's because you said it, but I don't know if you said it. You kind of said it. She said, "What logical explanation do you have that you didn't use all the?" And I'm paraphrasing here. You didn't use all the tools at your disposal in the last 5 years. So she was kind of getting to what you were just saying. You had all of this information, but you didn't even do any. You did the bare minimum of investigation. That's kind of what she was driving at, and that was objected to, and judge is like, yeah, that's a very broad question. Like she could have really she could have gone down that path like you were saying a couple minutes ago. Like you had all of these resources, and yet you didn't even use you could have used even more resources and you didn't test for this, you didn't test for that, you assume this, you assume that. Just because she didn't say this, but just because my brother um, admitted it, that's it. You just threw everything out. You threw everything else out the window.
Yeah.
So anyway,
That was a good question. She could have gone further down the road.
yeah,
She left a half hour on the table. I mean, the state rested at 4 o'clock.
yep. Let's see.
All right, we're gonna have to start going through the starred questions. There's 100. There are 100 starred questions.
All right, we
Oh
want to
my
wrap up
word.
real quick. So what happened? We'll just wrap up real quickly.
So the state rested after that, and then the judge says, "Are you going to present any evidence on your behalf to the defendant?" She consults. She defers with her advisory council for several minutes, and she comes back and she files a motion for dismissal based on the grounds that the state has not presented enough evidence to convict her, and the judge disagrees and he dismisses the motion. Trina says something in the middle there. It doesn't really matter. She talks about the evidence they have,
Yeah,
which is right. We have a
there's enough
gun.
evidence,
Yeah,
essentially. There's enough evidence. Yeah.
right. And in that case, actually, so the burden of proof is on the state in the
Mhm.
overall trial. But in that instance where the defendant files a motion to dismiss, the burden of proof is actually on them, and the preference goes to the state on not needing to prove their case beyond what they already have. So it's very rare those motions get granted.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen one other than Alec Baldwin, and that was because what's her face Morrissey got up on the stand and basically blew the doors off of that. But yeah, I've never seen it's a Rule 20, and I've never ever they do it. I mean, it's always irritating to see the defense. We want this thrown out, dismissed, and everybody's like, "Oh, shut up, sit down." But it happens in every trial. It's just part of the process.
Right. And then,
Um,
so she confers with her attorney. She says the defense rests.
mhm.
And the judge says, okay, we need to come back tomorrow. And in the morning, we can do final jury instructions, and then we can start closing arguments in the afternoon.
Mhm.
And Lori says, I'm not sure I'm going to have enough time to prepare my final arguments. I won't get to the jail till like 6 p.m. and I won't have much time to confer with my counsel. So can we do closing arguments on Monday? He says, yes. And then he says, then you have, and I think he says, you have until we finalize jury instructions to change your mind about resting the defense and testifying on your own behalf, which means tomorrow, because they're finalizing jury instructions tomorrow, and the jury instructions will change based on whether or not she testifies on her own behalf or not.
Yep.
Like if she doesn't, then the jury instructions will be, you can't hold it against her that she didn't. And if she does, then there will be other jury instructions, but those have to be finalized. There are other people that think that that means Monday, that she has till Monday to decide. I don't think she does. I think it's
No.
till like tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, 10:30. She's got to be like, yes, I will, or no, I won't.
Mm-hmm.
Just my
Yeah.
opinion. Uneducated.
Yeah, no, that's the way I took it as well. Yeah, they're coming in at, he said he's got it on the calendar for 10, so you can meet with your counsel, and then 10:45. So he's giving her 45 minutes to consult. So yeah,
Mhm.
she's got to decide because you're right. As he said, we need to finalize the jury instructions, and whatever you decide, you can't change it. It is what it is, or we'd have to change the jury instruction. So to me, yeah, he's giving, and it was the state that wanted to do closings on Monday, and I can't quite remember what Trina's reasoning was. I forget why. Oh, maybe for rebuttal. I think she wanted to leave time for rebuttal or something like that.
Right. Right.
And then defense, yeah, she said she hasn't had time to go over the jury instructions, and she agrees that Monday is better. So, um, we took a couple of polls. One of them, will Lori present a case? 204 votes, 53% said no, 46% said yes. And
Oh,
then
the nose have it.
the no's have it. Yeah. And then this was a good one. Should law enforcement go after more people in this conspiracy? We had 296 votes. 75% said yes, law enforcement should go after more people because, and 24% said no, because they kept talking about Melanie Boudreau, Melanie
Melanie Gibb.
Gibb. Yeah, Melanie Gibb was thrown in there. Chad. Well, we know what happened with Chad, but well, yeah, that's right. Because we know what we know. This was not a question for the jury. This was a question for our chat. So there's a lot of other people
Yeah.
that
Why wasn't Chad charged in this case? I mean, they have text messages from him to her in this. Hmm.
yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe they figure DP on him. What's the point? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. All right, let's try to get to some. I'm all right. A lot of okay. So there's new members. A lot of new members. New members. Um, Hector's mom says just became aware of Joe yesterday. I'm delighted to be here. Awesome.
Welcome, Hector's
Texas.
mom.
Yeah, Texas. I love hearing what happens inside the courtroom. Thanks to you both. Thank you. Thank you. Kathy Davis, what does she do when she is just sitting there?
So it depends on the witness and the testimony. So if it's something that she's uncomfortable with, that is inculpatory for her, she will pretend to be shuffling folders and papers and notebooks and pages and stuff, and she will pretend not to be paying any attention to that witness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when it's somebody that is like an expert on the stand that she has some kind of cross for, like Nathan Duncan today, then she will actually sit there and take notes and scribble notes on her yellow notepad. And I think maybe she uses some of those when she crosses.
Right. Yeah, Kikaru says, I think she's either taking notes or reading notes.
Or pretending to do one or the other.
Pretending. Dwayne saying hello. Thank you so much for all you do.
Thanks, Dwayne.
Real happy. We counted, believe it was 27 times she said okay from starting cross till after break. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a good question. Triva, do you guys think Lori will change her mind and testify before closing arguments?
I don't. I would put money on her not changing her mind. She just has. So does she have a lot more to risk by opening the door? Like, it would be a moral victory for her
Mm-hmm.
to get either a hung jury or a not guilty. And I
Yeah.
think she's swinging for that. And I think that if she testifies, she risks that more
Mm-hmm.
than the reward. Like, there's more risk than reward for her testifying to that because she has nothing to gain or lose. She's going to be in prison for the rest of her life. So
Yeah.
the only thing she has is, did I win this trial? Did I win that trial? Did I win this verdict? Did I win that verdict? Like, that's all she has. That's all she has going for her.
Right. Nana of 7. What does Lori do while Duncan and Trina are do? Wait, see. What does Lori do the wild time Duncan and Trina do while going over all those damning texts? So basically,
Yeah,
yeah, what is she doing?
she's ignoring him. She's
She's
ignoring
ignoring.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, Deb H. 47 minutes between that 911 call and the shooting. Was everything cleaned up? Possibly. Super Kelly G. Who cleaned up? Lori and Alex, while Kylie and JJ were in the car.
Okay. Well, we know the last text
Yeah.
message was responded to on Charles' phone at like 9:40ish, 9:38, or I mean 8, no, 7:30. So he got there at like 7:35, and then he and Alex were texting until about 7:40, and she left with his cell phone at 7:49. So Lori couldn't have done that much cleanup with Alex. Like
Yeah.
she may have left him with a huge mess to clean up.
Mhm. Yeah. Kathy asks, could he have been shot outside and dragged in?
It's possible. I mean, they supposedly looked everywhere for other blood evidence, so that would be really, really hard to hide that blood evidence of that being dragged in.
Yeah.
Not
Here's
saying it's impossible, but
right. Two things. Same question, kind of. Shore Life says, did the Emmys say there was a lot of blood inside? And Lily
yes.
Wayne as well says Emmys said there was a lot in the chest cavity. So
Yes, because one of the juror questions was it in the left lung, which the bullet passed through, but he said no, it wasn't in the lung, it was in the chest cavity.
right. Oh, this is a good one. Sinbad, do you think Trina didn't call Moffat because Lori could ask him? So was your conclusion self defense at the end of the first investigation? Huh.
Hmm. Interesting. Very
Right.
interesting. Very interesting.
Right. Let's see. Oh my goodness, little man. All right, hang in there, buddy. We're almost done. Um, yes, Ken says, still so cool having Joe's insights from the courtroom. Nothing beats a perspective from inside the room. I agree with
Thank you,
that.
Ken. I appreciate that.
All right, we talked about the different chapters of the Nephi. Oh, this is a good one from Shore Life. Do you think any of the jurors understand about Nephi and its meaning?
Not if they're not LDS. I guarantee that was like way over their head. Like
Yeah,
I don't know that the state scored any points with that, and I don't know that Lori cleared up any points with that.
right. Here's a silly one from Drunky the Bear. Ask Joe, could he see over the Shih Tzu hair?
Not on the left side. When I moved to the right side for the afternoon session, I was good.
Is this true, MG? Lori's niece was just arrested?
Which one? Melanie's?
Yeah, Melanice. Which one? And yarn work. This one, yeah, I wanted to pull this one up. We heard a scream. Do you remember there was a scream? Like I
For
think it
real
was
in the
after.
courtroom?
Yeah, I think it was after lunch. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was after lunch.
I think it may have been somebody's phone.
Okay.
There was an electronic disturbance.
All right. So Trace is asking what time you guys are going tomorrow. What's the plan?
So supposedly, as I was riding down the elevator with two security guards, and that was just coincidence. It wasn't an intentional placement. Um, they said that tomorrow is not open to the public. So the plan for tomorrow may be just to chill out and wait for the jury instructions to come out and then go Monday for closing.
Mm-hmm.
It would be really nice to have a 4-day weekend instead of a 3-day weekend. That'd be amazing.
All right. Um, let's see. Zara says, I don't know if you are LDS or have been, Joe. Well, we know that answer. Not happy with your response. You are an ex-member, and most people do, in fact, talk about the Nephi story. He was a hero.
You're not happy with my response. It wasn't my response. It was Detective Duncan's response. He said everybody he talked to talked about the Laban story. Did I say more than that about the Nephi story?
No, you said, well, you said that when you ask like 10 people, 2 of them will say the one story, but 8 other people will have a different response, maybe? I don't
Right.
know.
Right. So the King Laban justified killing story is a bad story. And I said it's not as prevalent as Detective Duncan did. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you misunderstood, Zara, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't agree with Detective Duncan. I'll just say that.
Right. All right. That concludes. A lot of the stars were new members, so we appreciate all you new members. And that we pulled that one up already.
Yep.
Is that me or did that somebody?
It's not me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Pammy's saying thank you. All right, guys. This is a good question. Will we see watch the jury instructions? I hope so. I hope they show it. We'll be ready for it. If they do, I hope so. If they don't, we're going to have to scramble and show something else. So Aaron and I have some work to do after we hang up.
Yeah.
So
Let's research together because the security guards may have their information messed up. But they said it's not open to the public. But I don't know if it will be televised. I should have asked Nate. Yeah. Let's research. We'll figure it out.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, on that, Joe, thank you again for being our boots on the ground. We really appreciate you. And do you have any last comments, parting comments, door prizes for our guests?
It's just a relief that we're near the end on this. That's it.
Okay. Sounds good. Aaron says a long crime does have it scheduled. So hopefully they're treating it like a pretrial, like a pretrial hearing or something like that. Yeah.
I may have to go check it out and see if it's open to the public. I may just have to drive to downtown Phoenix and figure it out.
And do it. Yeah. 10:45 they have it. Yeah, I wonder if it'll be 30-minute delayed or not, because the hearings they were not, the pretrials they were not, they weren't delayed or whatever. So all right, we'll be ready. We'll be ready to stream it, and if you want to do a recap, that's fine. If you want to take a night off too, that's fine by me. So all right, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, chat. You guys were great. Thank you to our mods. We had a lot of people on both sides of the stream, so we really appreciate that. And please join us either tomorrow for the stream. We may or may not be doing a recap. Probably not. Tomorrow's Thursday, so we may not get together until Monday.
Yep. And then Friday I have the release of the interview with Janelle Murphy. So look for that.
Right on. Aaron set up so Broken Baker has a stream going, guys. So we set up a redirect. So if you guys want to go do a raid over on Baker, that'd be cool. And if not, we will see you tomorrow. One way or the other, we will be streaming something. We're not quite sure what yet, but we will be streaming something. Joe, please go get some sleep. And let us know if you want to do a recap tomorrow or not. And if not, we'll definitely see you on Monday.
All right. We'll play it by ear.
Okay. Sounds good, man. Have a good night.
You too. Good night, everybody.